The podcast which you are about to hear is an account of the tragedy which befell a group of 5 podcasters, in particular, Brantley Palmer and his telekinetic friend Nick Schwartz. It is all the more tragic in that they were nice, but had they had very, very long careers, they could not have expected, nor would they have wished to hear, as many dick jokes as they were to hear that day. For them, an idyllic winter evening podcast became a nightmare. The events of that record were to lead to the cancellation of one of the most bizarre podcasts in the anal cavity of American history, the 5 Day Rentals podcast.
Or are we just going straight in?
We're gonna just ease in.
All right.
We could do that cool thing where we've already opened. Like this is the beginning right now.
Well, now, are you worried that it's
like
too
a
meta
nice,
now?
Like a nice fade in.
We've drawn attention to it.
Well, I think we've broken the facade enough that it's okay.
Okay.
Plus, it's the holiday season, man.
Mm-hmm.
This is a gift for our few listeners.
Yeah, people are
43.
They got their AirPods in. They're holding a turkey leg in their mouth right now.
Mm-hmm.
Glass of wine.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to
Well,
yell
with this
too much
election,
at the
people
kids.
they're not with their big families anymore.
Hey, this is a podcast. We don't have to acknowledge that an election happened. Right now, it didn't happen.
Oh, that's true. We could pretend like it's the Monday before.
Wait, so now we did a meta thing, and now we're doing
false
like
hope.
a alternate universe thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're like Marvel.
If we're going to do that, can we go back to like 2016 and maybe pick somebody else instead?
Yeah.
Hell, we can go back to 2000 and
Oh, shit,
fix
guys.
the Chads.
Obama just decided he was doing a third term.
Yeah. How many drone strikes do you think he'll get with another 4 years, dude?
Can we go back to
So he should have ran on.
55 so I can make sure my parents get together?
Can we go back to 55
No.
so I can smoke in the doctor's office?
The last thing you need is to develop a crush on your dad.
You think they made a parody version of that?
Yes,
Like,
without a doubt. Back it up in the future.
I was going to just say fuck to the future.
Fuck to the future. Okay.
back end of the future?
Fuck to the future. Fuck to the back turn. Wait, who are these other people here? Speaking of meta.
This is Brantley and Nick.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Horror drafts.
Oh, hey. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be here in this new era of 5 Day Rentals, where you just ease in. This is like very cozy, very nice.
No,
little...
that's trademarked, buddy.
I know. I said,
on, man.
As soon as I said it, I was like, oh.
Yeah, we're on the lam, so it's different.
Yeah. Hey,
Less stress.
who hasn't been on the lam here and there? Everyone runs into that once in a while.
By the way, guys, thanks for picking us up.
And you guys,
awesome.
the two of you didn't have to burn off your fingerprints, but I appreciate the solidarity.
Oh yeah, I'd already done it before anyway. Just I had some other stuff I was doing that I didn't want to leave any evidence for. But yeah, I mean, Nick was real good to do that with you guys, and
Yeah.
appreciate it.
I've been looking for an excuse for a while.
Yeah.
Nick, I was going to ask, you've been sticking your knife into the side paneling of the van. I assume it's okay for me to as well. I didn't know if it's something that you just do, but
No, it's like a shoes on or off policy, and whatever you're comfortable with, it's fine.
okay. Okay.
And you guys are okay. I usually...
We're not picky.
Yeah, and I assume you guys are okay. I have this tinfoil up here. I like to burn, photographs in it every once in a while. You're okay if I'm doing that up here while I drive?
Well,
It's your guys'
that's
van.
fine. If it's nudes, can you show us at least first?
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Right on.
It's
Or-
exclusively pictures that he has taken in this vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So the selection of subjects is small
So you can recreate
in
them.
more ways than one.
Yep.
I'm even more interested now.
Yeah.
And it is hot in here, so, it's steamy. Let's just say that the photos are steamy.
Yeah. Speaking of that, can I take off this stupid fucking mask I'm wearing?
More than welcome to, yeah.
Oh, thank goodness. Oof. It's a steamer in here.
I don't know if you can. We used that's super glue, dude.
I'm going to look like Deadpool from now on.
We ran out of the spirit gum
Yeah.
ages ago.
Earlier when you couldn't talk and you were just going, that's because your lips were stuck together.
Well, it's not the worst. I guess it could be worse.
If
Be a duck.
if you don't start talking about the movie, I'm going to read everybody's astrology.
It's not in retrograde. Hey. Welcome to 5 Day Rentals. We're the video store podcast. I'm Laundry Dan. Tonight I'm going to be taking you through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. That's right. The original. You heard that right. A good movie. Because we're starting off 5-star Banquet. Because sometimes we like to, if you're scrolling through our feed, you probably wonder, these guys probably hate themselves and movies. But that's not true. We love movies. And sometimes we like to talk about good ones. So this is what this category is all about. Welcome, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate. And sit back, relax for the next few weeks, and enjoy some good movies that 5DR likes to talk about. Like I said, I'm going to take you through it tonight. I can't do it alone. I got 4 other good buddies here that have also been hit in the head with a hammer a few times. Bones, Kron, Nick and Brantley from Horror Drafts. Thank you for joining us.
So we're a real podcast now, right? Real movie podcast.
No, we did Mad Max Fury Road, so that made us legit.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay.
We struggled through that one.
Okay, let our guests talk.
Hey, Nick and Brantley, welcome. Thank you for your time, as always. Our best fucking podcast buddies. The Gruesome Twosome from Horror Drafts. Tell us, what do you guys got going on?
Go for it, Nick.
Oh, I mean, that was the extent of it, I think. That pretty much covered it. That awkward silence. But it's a pleasure to be here, as always. And we appreciate you having us on. And I appreciated having an excuse to watch this movie again for the first time. And I probably had been 15 years.
Wow.
Same.
So it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, and I thank you for having us. I love the nickname, the Gruesome Twosome. I don't know if we'll use that on our pod. Maybe we should. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was nice.
I'm all for it.
I have watched this film recently, though. I think previous to last night when I watched it, the other 2 times I'd watched it recently was with commentaries on it as I was doing research for With Gorley and Rust. So this was nice to kind of just get to sit down and watch it in and of itself without, actors and crew discussing it. So, yeah.
This is the first time in a while I watched a movie for the show with the commentary. I think not since Phantasm 2, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of fun with it. I loved how dishy they were.
Yep.
Leatherface hating
Franklin.
Or everybody hating Franklin.
Yeah.
Talking shit about how slow our main actress runs.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if Gunnar Hansen can catch you in a foot race, you got to be pretty slow, right? I mean,
yeah, he was saying that he had to force himself to get caught in the tree to give her more time to get away because it was just so easy to catch her. Yeah, it's great stuff. Gunnar is great. He wrote a whole book about it, but he'd spill about everybody. I was about to say shit on. He wasn't shitting on. There's some people he really loved, but he would spill about everybody.
I think there's a difference between spilling, giving information for something that has a massive following to whatever you can do to kind of grow the foundation of that the history, and then just being a prick.
Yeah.
And I in no way did I think he was being a prick. And them calling out how slow she was running, I think you have to, because you can't watch this now and think, man, this chick is, I know it's hot, but drink a Gatorade.
Yeah, that's
take another crack at it.
Yeah, it was all in good fun, and that's why I stopped myself from saying shit on and more like spill, because it was like, good humored, good natured, and yeah, it is. I mean, hey, look, as someone who also runs very slow, I feel for her, and I probably would have been caught by Leatherface as well. So I was like the slowest sprinter on my football teams when I played. So I feel for her, and I related, and I would have been very much eviscerated by that chainsaw myself.
But were you a lineman?
I was, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Freshman year during tryouts, they had us run the mile, and I was the fastest lineman of the freshmen trying out to run the mile, but I was the slowest of like the tight ends and receivers, which is what I was originally going to go as like a tight end, which is what I played in middle school. And they're like, yeah, no, like you're not fast enough, because I have decent like long range like jogging speed. I have really poor sprinting speed, so I was still the slowest sprinter of the linemen.
Sounds like the perfect guy for a trick play.
The perfect guy to snap the ball to someone who's gonna do this trick play, let's put it that way.
All right.
Well, gentlemen, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is 50 years old. Crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is unbelievable.
All right. 1974. Toby Hooper.
Wouldn't it be great to have a president who was like only 50?
Do we need to get it? Do we need to get it out of our system?
No, I'm just wondering, like, should we identify a metric based on like classic movies? Like, you can't be older than this.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I mean, right now the bar is low. We're at like Nosferatu age limit. Surely we can we close the gap even a little?
Wouldn't it be great if Donald Trump just carried around his own casket like the whole 4 years?
Like, what? Pixar started, early 90s?
Yeah, 98.
Okay,
Maybe
maybe
the
we should...
company was formed in the 80s, but I think like
okay.
First feature length was
Story.
Toy Story, and that was, I think, 95.
95, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say, you can't be older than Pixar, but that might be too young.
Yeah, too young.
Legally, I think that's too young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Constitutionally, I think that's too young.
Yeah, because you have to be 35 to
Yeah.
take office. Not to be elected. I think you can be 34 when you're elected, but as long as you're taking office by the time you turn 35.
Okay.
Oh,
I think.
there's a narrow window there.
Yeah, you got a couple extra months there,
How about you can't be older than Hill Street Blues, but you have to be old enough to know like the TriStar theme song.
You've had to seen RoboCop like 4 times.
Yeah, if you didn't watch RoboCop, that's who we're looking for. We're looking for like people that watch RoboCop at a sleepover.
Yeah. That sounds like that's a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great segue to my first question about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. what was your first experience with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Krongo.
I don't remember specifically like the first time I saw this movie. It had to be pretty early though. It's kind of like once you've worked your way through the Freddys, the Jasons, and the Michael Myers, I feel like this might be the next logical step. But I think it was pretty early. I mean, it was definitely like while we were in high school.
So high school aged.
Yeah.
Okay. Nick, give it to me.
I was renting RoboCop, and they had switched the tapes inside. And lo and behold, it was Texas Chainsaw.
I just got hard, dude.
Yeah. When did I first see it? I don't know. I mean, I must have been early high school, but our local video store had like a 50-cent horror section, and Texas Chainsaw old sun-faded box was always prominently displayed. The one with I think the back is just the meat hook, like still frame. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know anything about the movie at the time, so I just thought that like this has to be the most like exploitation film of all time. It sounds like I had no idea. Just from the title, of course. So I probably didn't watch it until I got into horror, which would have been later on.
Bones, break it down.
I think I talked about this on the Netflix Texas Chainsaw that we covered. We had our buddy Danny Duck on. I want to say 2002, 2003-ish. He went with me, and we went and stayed with my extended family for like a week. And, you know, they're old people, so they're out at like 7, 8 o'clock. And in my grandmother's sewing room in the back of the house was a TV. And I think every night he and I went to Video Giant, which was the massive like rental place. And I honestly couldn't tell you if we got this on VHS or DVD at the time. I almost wanted to ask Brantley, like, do you know when this first popped up on DVD? Because it might have just been a VHS copy in early 2000s. And we watched that, and it was like, double wide fabricated home full of like arts and crafts and little precious angels all around us. So it was like kind of the perfect juxtaposition to watch this. And it was a blast.
Did you turn all of them around so they didn't have to see it?
No, they had to share in the horror as well.
Brantley, lay it on me.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly when I watched it either. It would have been middle school or high school as I was going through the Fridays and the Freddys and all those other kind of classic franchises. I don't know when exactly the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was first put on DVD, to your question, Bones, but I know that in 2003, to coincide with the remake coming out, they put out like a special edition DVD of it, but I don't know if that was the first time it ever came out or not.
Okay.
So it very well could have been on VHS in those early 2000s when you watched it. But I would have watched it on VHS, I'm sure. I would have rented it from either Video 2020 in Bellows Falls, Vermont, or Reel to Reel in Walpole, New Hampshire. Those were like the two local ones that I would have gone to in middle school and high school. Because... yeah, I mean, I wish I had more specifics. I mean, at a friend's birthday party who was turning 12, we watched Scream, and I was not 12 yet. I was still 11, and that's what really got me into horror. And I think it was very quickly after that I was starting to watch like a ton of horror movies and stuff. And when I turned 12, as a birthday present, my parents put a note on my account saying I could rent whatever I wanted, including R-rated movies and all kinds of horror movies and stuff. So then that really opened the floodgates like a couple months later when I turned 12. So yeah, I'm going to guess probably middle school, but I wish I had more specifics for you. I do not recall.
Hell yeah. I watched this on VHS. Germany. Got it from the or not the exchange, the shopette is what they called the gas station. But yeah, it was always a rental. Probably my cousins played it at my grandparents' house when I was way young, because they rented all that shit, Jason, Freddy. So, but yeah, definitely end of middle school, going into high school.
Dan, was yours dubbed into German?
No, it was all American, Kron. When you're on a post over there, it is America.
Hmm.
Even
It just would have been funny to, I don't know, hear a German guy trying to do the Leatherface squeals or something.
Oh,
Sorry, I am dropping a link in here because this VHS discussion made me think of the back of this VHS box for Texas Chainsaw has what I think is the best tagline of all time. A horror cult film based on an actual crime from the director of Poltergeist. It's worded in a way like it's like he based the film on a crime that he himself committed. Which I will always love that pull quote so much. Or it's not even a pull quote. But yeah. Good stuff. Anyway, sorry.
That's funny. Yeah. I was wondering if it was the media release you were talking about.
I don't think it was. That's why I was looking that up.
Okay.
No, it is.
But that
right there.
cover is basically the same thing. Yeah, it's just that was that image, that the meat hook still.
Gotcha. Because I owned that copy of the media chainsaw version, so I had that for a while, and then I don't know. I think once I made the transition to DVDs, it went away. But
Oh,
yeah,
nice. Yeah, that's probably like that image that I just copied. I guess was from like a grading site, and it's still sealed. I'm sure. Fucking guys are asking like $999 for it.
Get out of here,
Brantley. When you were talking though, I think that's the version of the DVD that I had, was that re-release when the new Texas Chainsaw came out in 2003.
Yeah. And that was more like it's like black and red colors primarily on it, right? Yeah. I can't describe the exact front cover, but yeah, it was more like black and red. That's the one I remember getting too, because I also got the remake DVD when that came out. Yeah. I was less discerning about the movies I purchased at that time, and I had employee discounts.
Now, Dan, I remember you being, and you might still be, an advocate of that remake.
I do enjoy the remake. I think it's kind of getting a little more respect nowadays than it did when it came out. But I think it was Marcus Nepal that did it.
Yeah. Who did the
The
Friday
high-tension
remake
guy?
too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I love that opening with the van, with the bullet hole goes through, and I think it's great.
And the camera goes right through the bullet, the wound in the head, yeah.
But yeah, I enjoy the remake. You could catch me on a remake of Horror Drafts remake episode. Check that out, please.
Yes.
Did you draft it?
Sure. Yeah.
With the Twosome Gruesome?
With the twosome gruesome.
Gruesome Twosome?
Gruesome
Gruesome
twosome.
twosome.
No, I like the way I said it.
I don't think we drafted it.
I don't think we did, no.
I don't think it was drafted, but I'm with you.
close.
I don't mind that movie either.
I don't either. Yeah, it's been forever. I feel like I actually need to rewatch it. Because I remember being at horror conventions and meeting Andrew Briniarski, who played Leatherface in that chainsaw, and also was Latimer in the program, which is another reason I was excited to meet him.
Seat at the table?
Yeah, seat at the table. Yep.
Was that the guy that spits in the other guy's mouth? Was that one of those guys?
Oh yeah, that's him. He's also
so many
the
questions.
steroid user.
Oh yeah. Also in the movie he is too. Yeah. He's also in Necessary Roughness as a football player and in Any Given Sunday. So he really cornered the market pre Texas Chainsaw Massacre with football player roles.
And he's Max Schreck's son in Batman Returns, right?
You're right. Yeah, this is one non-football player role, I think, prior to Chainsaw.
Oh, the best Batman.
Shut the fuck up.
I think I still go 89.
Ew.
I'm Adam West all the way. Give me that 66.
That's respectable.
All right, guys. Thank you for your first experiences with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That leads me into another question tonight. Do you feel that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre changed the landscape of horror movies, or did it just create a new genre of horror movies? Bones, give it to me.
Oh, dude, I'm the worst person to
You passing?
answer
You get
this.
one pass tonight. That's
no, let me save the pass.
it. All right.
So maybe I can BS this. I think it did both, right?
I mean, that's your opinion. I'm asking you. I don't have an answer for you. We can
Wait,
come
are we
back to you.
like? Is this are these for points and shit?
No, we're not doing point.
Okay.
We're gonna fucking fight. It's the holiday season.
I think it's
Sit
pretty
back, man.
I
Have
think
a
it's-
ginger
it's-
ale.
I'm writing down -1 point for Bones.
He has -2 right now, Crone.
Okay.
I mean, it's obvious, right? It's set a massive franchise. It's 50 years old. People still talk about it. It's had countless remakes and sequels, prequels that people just forget about. It's the thing people go to. I mean, I'm not equipped enough to tell you that he was the first masked chainsaw killer, but I do think it established a certain American perspective on what horror could be, and utilizing American lore and, sort of regional aesthetics. I mean, I'm sure before then the primary American horror stuff was stuff out of the Northeast, right? Witch-related stuff. You know what, Dan? I'm going to say that this movie's American as hell. Final answer.
2 points. Brantley Palmer, pound it into me.
What was the two options again? I've already forgotten. I'm sorry.
My answer was so good. The question is now irrelevant.
Do you feel that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre changed the landscape of horror movies, or do you feel it just created a new genre of horror movies?
I think it definitely changed the landscape of horror movies. I don't know if I am knowledgeable enough to say it created its own new genre, because I feel like you've always had messed up families within the horror realm for like a really long time, like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Psycho, you name it. You've had like messed up families, maybe not this same sort of like kind of redneck, like, cannibal ones. And, like slashers arguably were around before, although is this even a slasher? I don't know. So it's like, I don't know if I'm equipped to say it created its own new genre, but I definitely think it changed the landscape of horror. I mean, this is like a real like grindhouse, like horror movie at the time when that was like first like becoming a thing. And I feel like this one landed with, an atom bomb. You've always had like the drive-in type of horror movies, and like Night of the Living Dead was huge 5 years before this, but that's nowhere near the level of like grime and grit and just like nastiness that like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is. So this is like a real kind of atom bomb hitting at a time when like we're still in it, but kind of coming out of Vietnam. We're starting to see a lot more viscera in our horror films, and this like really exemplifying it, because people had just been watching horrendous stuff on the news as they were covering Vietnam and everything. So it's like this tidal wave is happening at this time that's cranking up the gore essentially within the horror genre, and this is hitting right at the same time. Now, that being said, it's kind of funny watching this because you think it's kind of gorier than it is, honestly, because of the ways that it's shot and everything. It's really not as like bloody and nasty as you kind of remember it in your head. But I'll definitely take the first one on that, and I don't know if it created its own genre. I don't know if I can definitively say.
Nick, spread me open.
I can't follow that. I can't follow the. Well, I'm not knowledgeable enough to talk about it, but here's a college lecture on all of the reasons that I can't. No, all right, I'll try. That was a great answer though, and I don't really know. Like, well, what I will say is that I had the same reaction that Brantley had, which is I'm not sure that this is a slasher movie, and if that's the genre that you were alluding to, I don't know that I could speak to that. I could say something without like any facts to back this up, but it's just a feeling. Obviously, I wasn't alive then, but like to Brantley's point, you know, it's a relatively, I wouldn't call it a bloodless movie, but like the actual on-screen violence that happens actively is pretty bloodless, and at the same time, I still think it's like one of the grossest, grittiest movies of all time. But the violence-wise, like what you actually, the on-screen violence that actually occurs is minimal, right? At least when you think of slashers today. But because of the title, I think, and probably the reactions to that kind of movie at that time, I think the reputation that that movie has, especially from people who probably haven't seen it or haven't seen it in a long time, probably created, like, because it's a really, like, actually pretty artfully made movie. I don't know if artfully is the right word, but, like, competently made for sure. But I think it inspired, like, I almost feel like the feeling that you have when you hear about that movie is what inspired like a whole wave of massacre movies in the 80s, like really bad, like straight to video horror, like the Nail Gun Massacre and stuff, like not competently made movies. But I don't think it was like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre itself as a film that inspired that. I almost feel like it was just like the idea of a movie called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like what people picture when they hear that title. And probably like the general like aura surrounding the release of that movie. Do I think it changed the landscape of horror? I feel like I'd have to have lived through that to really be able to answer that. But look, any movie that I think people are talking about like this 50 years later certainly made an impact. Whether it like fundamentally changed the way horror films were made, marketed, I can't say, but here we are, 50th anniversary, doing a podcast about it. So,
Kron, hit me over the head with it, please.
Whoa. I mean, I think if you're saying did it, I think more than anything, it probably changed the landscape of like independent filmmaking in a way, because I feel like up until this time, it would have been, I mean, there would have been some horror in there, but it also would have been like, you know, drug warning films and like nudie cutie films. I feel like this was maybe one of the first independent movies that showed you can compete on like a major level with a studio film. Like a few guys with $100,000 can make a movie that will be number one at the global, or not global, but like North American box office. So I feel like that might have been the impact more than anything on, you know, reshaping how movies are created and who's allowed to make, you know, major contenders. But I think because of the circumstances of this, it did resonate with people, you know, having to shoot on 16 millimeter and then blow it up to be able to be seen. It does give it more of like a documentary feel, and it feels different than kind of the horror that was popular at the time, which I think around this, it would have been a lot of like ghost story stuff or, you know, possession, like Rosemary's Baby kind of things. But I mean, this is, if you're coming out of Rosemary's Baby and then going into this movie, it's a completely, you know, different set of rules that the filmmakers are playing with. It's not even like in the same wheelhouse. So I don't know. I think it did. I think it changed the landscape of like horror and independent horror. There you go.
Gentlemen, all beautiful answers. There are no wrong answers tonight. Okay. Yeah, I think everybody hit on a lot of it. We are in 1974. 73 is probably when they're filming, August 18th. Well, August, I guess. July and August, if you read Brantley's fine research there. 1972, The Last House on the Left came out. Brantley did hit on Night of the Living Dead as well. So we're in that age of newer filmmakers, more gritty, realistic. Vietnam and all that stuff happened. So yeah, I think, yeah. And like Nick said, 50 years later, we're still talking about it. I think it did have an effect on it. And new genre, I just meant, yeah, we got Wrong Turn. We got so many movies where there's just a fucked up family. I mean, even
Hills Have
Craven's hitting
Eyes.
on it.
And,
Yeah, I was about to say that one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think, man, you guys are good podcasters. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I meant to the gruesome twosome there, not Cron and Bones. You guys
I know, that's why I didn't say anything.
fuck yourselves.
I knew it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Cron Howard, could this take place anywhere else but Texas?
That's an interesting question. I mean, I think one of the things that I noticed, because I did 2 rewatches of this movie before we talked about it, but
Oh, shit.
I do feel like Texas has a unique character to it. Like I noticed, it's not every single wide shot in this movie, but wide shots are like pretty sparing in the film. But I feel like most of the time they're used to establish how vast and desolate the landscape is. Like just how completely isolated these people are, where they are at this specific time. And then the rest of the movie is like, it's like, God damn, dude, can you back the camera up a foot? Like the rest of it is so claustrophobic. And as you go into the movie, I mean, even the part where they're in the van, like that feels too close. And then by the end of the movie, you're literally, you know, you have a close up that's like a third of someone's eyeball. Like it just keeps moving in and in and in. So I think could it be anywhere but Texas? I don't know. I think you could have interesting, well, I mean, there are certainly like interesting regional horror movies, but I don't know if this specific film would land the same way, disconnected from the location. I think they were all in Texas, so they were like, well, shit, let's just use what's around us. Like, what's the best horror movie we can make based on our geographic location? So I think for this specific film, it's got to be Texas.
Right on. Anybody else want in on this? Brantley, drive it across my state line, please.
I mean, I guess you could technically call it anything else and have it be set somewhere else, but the question is really like, would it have the same impact? You know, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre just seems to like fit so perfectly. I don't know if the Wisconsin Chainsaw Massacre would have the same effect, even though this is, you know, inspired by the actions of Ed Gein. But yeah, I know, you know, I don't think it would have had the same impact if it was anywhere else than Texas.
What the question is that the question exactly? Like,
Yeah.
would it have worked anywhere else?
Yeah.
I mean, I think you'd have a very different movie. I think that story could work somewhere else, but that specific movie works so well, again, because of like the dust and grittiness and just like everyone is sweaty and you can feel the heat and like it's just so grimy. And I don't think you'd get that in any other setting, personally.
And I think Texas works really well too, because while there are these population centers, it's this really large state where there's a lot of like desolate nothing around you for a long while. So it kind of reinforces this idea that no one's coming to save you. You kind of need to fight and get out yourself, you know, which, you know, ultimately our final girl has to do.
It kind of helps with the branding too. Like I mentioned it being very American, but Texas in itself is its own like what they call themselves like a whole other country, right? So I think saying something is in Texas already sort of sets a foundation for you in that desolation. And it doesn't matter how modern you are, I think we associate Texas with the West. So in this plot of rolling into a town and uncovering a problem, that's sort of like the basis of a Western. So now you sort of turn it around, and instead of a gun, it's a chainsaw. It kind of fills in these gaps for you before you even see it. So it becomes, that title makes almost like a Mad Libs of a plot. Now I know that wasn't the original title, but if you were to just sort of pick those, you can kind of already say like, all right, I know what this is. It's going to be in Texas. It's going to involve, like, that does a lot of the work for you. So when you start this movie, you are invested in these people knowing that, like, well, they're going to get massacred. And like Kron said, the camera is right in their face. So I'm just going to take it on their word that they're in Texas.
I also feel like answering this question now, like, there's so much context that we wouldn't have had if we had that same question like right after it was released, which is like, it may not have started like a genre, but like how many cliches came from this movie? Like that small town where like everyone winds up being related, and like you go into the gas station and it's this creepy old man. Like, I don't think those were cliches at the time.
Yeah.
So like 50 years later talking about it, I just feel like it must be, you're getting a very different answer, I would imagine.
And gas plays a big part, right? We're in the gas shortage, and you know, we colonized and invaded and stole the American West, but our expanse was largely due to gasoline. So I think anybody watching this movie in 74, it's like when you watch stuff now and people have masks on. Like, oh, I know this was during COVID. I know what these people are going through or thinking. So I think that also, if you're in other parts of the country, you can kind of relate to, damn, it would suck to not have gas. It would really suck not to have gas in Texas, where it's how many miles between stops.
Beautiful answers, guys. The title alone is just so much.
Can I go last every time? Because I can just like
I'll decide
pull
that.
from their guys' answers.
He's going first with this next one.
Shit.
The title alone is, it's just so fucking, it's brilliant. If they would have had head cheese, I mean, that's a cool title. Leatherface, cool title, but the Texas Chainsaw, man, you know, my dad is from Texas. He's Southwest Texas. So you drive all the way through Texas to get to where he's from in Texas. And this was always, well, that's where they filmed the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So even as a little child, I knew what the Texas Chainsaw, I didn't see it, but I knew, like, it's like a lore almost from just like what he would say as we were driving through, just to, you know, talk on a family trip. 16
When you would
hours.
Drive through Dallas, would he point where Debbie did everybody?
Yeah, he's like, that's where JFK died. And I was like, who's that? And he was like,
It'll consume your life one day. Don't worry about it.
some lib nobody cared about.
You will text your friends at least 16 times a week with JFK references.
You know, that's might have been the seed, the brainworm that, you know, did it.
Whoa, you got brainworms, dude?
Everybody does now. That's what they're going to put in the water instead of
I think there's a
fluoride.
government position waiting for you, buddy.
Gentlemen, we got one more question before we take a break, and then we'll run through a very vague plot, but we'll also have some plot questions. Nick,
Oh, boy.
what's your favorite what the fuck moment or favorite moment from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Favorite moment. Can I cheat and just say there's two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, I think from
Moments.
from like a filmmaking perspective, the macro shot of the eye is just wonderful. They cut to it maybe one too many times, but it's an incredible shot. And the way it's used in that sequence is to such great effect that it's hard for me not to say that. But probably the best moment, in my opinion, is when I can't think of her name already. I just watched this movie last night. But after the very famous shot, the low angle shot underneath the swing as she walks into the house, that first room that she walks in, and she falls on all the crap, and then like there's a chicken in the cage, and you see all the bones and everything. That's such a great reveal. Like, I don't think that just in terms of like, I mean, that's like pure horror. I don't know why, but that there's something about that. Again, it's just like, it's so gross and unexpected, and like it's so like expertly done.
And you spend a lot of time in that room.
You really
do. On this
do.
rewatch, I realized how much time you actually like take to spin around and see everything in that room.
Yeah.
So,
and like just the art direction there is just, it's so effective. I don't know if they used like real animal corpses. I mean, I guess that's still art direction. Art direction was like, throw a bunch of dead things in a room and let's see what happens. And but it's incredible. Yeah, I found like, I've seen this movie several times, but like last night rewatching that scene, I was like, this is probably the most like disturbing I've ever found this film for some reason. It's just that good.
Karan Howard, favorite moments.
Yeah, I mean, whenever you asked the question, I first thought of the exact same scene that Nick just talked about. I mean, I do feel like it's like she falls into like a chaos that she never comprehended before. It is beyond the pale of like what you could imagine. The other scene that I think is like really, really effectively edited is, you know, towards the end when they've got Grandpa trying to hit her in the head. There's like a bunch of quick cuts where, you know, like he's trying to hit her. It cuts over to, I can't remember the guy's name, the guy who like brings her back to the house. And he's like clapping and jumping up and down. And it's like so disorienting and so, I don't know. It just like makes your head spin how much they're cutting from character to character. It's these little, you know, not even maybe but 1 second shots that are all stitched together back to back. And I was like, damn, that is, I mean, for like a low budget movie to have this like editing kind of flair to it, it's, I don't know. It's amazingly well done. But yeah, I think those two scenes on the rewatch, probably the ones that like stuck with me the most.
Brantley, take my hand and take me to Never Never Land.
So it's right after the guy gets hit with the hammer, not the hammer hit itself, but when Leatherface slams that door, and it just feels like this like gut punch that's kind of signals, okay, now this movie has like truly started, or at least the horrors of this movie have really like started in earnest, essentially. And I just find that like such a, like every time I know it's coming, but every time that door, because it's so fast too, like, and it's done with such force that it's this very impactful moment. And that's what I always like think of when I think of the impactful, I guess, moments or scene or whatever in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's a great introduction to Leatherface too. You know, you see him for what, maybe 1 or 2 seconds as he's raising it before he, you know, brings the hammer down, and then the wider shot like down the hallway, and then the door slam. I mean, that's really like it. That's like this only introduction you get to him, and you kind of wonder like, who is he? What just happened? You know?
It's a true like, what the fuck are we in for? Like,
exactly.
oh, shit.
Exactly. That's part of what makes that movie so effective, is like again, the title, you have like a set of expectations that we're going to be lingering on all this violence, but that's just like such a fast, unexpected scene out of nowhere, and then it ends on this punctuation with the door closing, and then it's like you're in and out of it immediately. You know, there's like one far away obscured shot where the hammer's coming down once or twice, and then it's over. And it's after a fairly long, quiet intro, with the exception of the hitchhiker, and it's just like, yeah, that's a great choice. That's probably a better choice. A little jealous.
Thanks.
Yeah,
I feel like too when that door slams, like there's a note in the score that comes in like right when the door closes, but it's also like that's maybe the first time in the score that an actual like distinguishable note has been played. Up until that point, the score is like the sound of metal scraping against each other. I mean, it's so like weird and wrong sounding even through the credits, where it's like that door slams and you finally get something that sounds like audio you might recognize, you know.
Bones, honk my horn, please.
Funny you speak of horn, because my favorite part of the movie is truck driver. Man, like, it's so satisfying how fast this guy goes from I just ran over somebody to what's up with this chick? Oh shit, there's a guy. No, fuck that. And like, he's proactive. It's so satisfying. I think the most terrifying thing for me on this rewatch was the hitchhiker. Just the struggle of, man, we picked this guy up. Is there something wrong with him? Like this liberal mentality of, wow, I really should just stop the van and throw this guy out, which everybody thinks when they watch it. And it's played so perfect because of how paced it is. Him pulling the knife out but putting it back. Okay, he doesn't mean anything by it. Like, he pulls this thing out and burns it, but it's fine. The photo, like, the switch of taking the photo, it's a nice photo, now give me money for it. You know, if you've been in a city, you've run into somebody who's tried to hand you something, you know, like, and start a conversation and creep you out. So from I don't find the movie scary. I think there's terror in it. I think being in a bone room is pretty awful. I think it's just,
Well, it depends.
yeah, well, that's fair. Just the nature of the encounters. Like, they slowly build to extremes, but everybody's sort of been in a, you know, you've pulled up to a place, and not to say that there's a guy with an obvious issue just staring up into the sky, but you know, you from afar, something looks fine and okay. And as you get closer, you realize, oh, I really fucked up. Like,
beautiful answers, gentlemen. Funny you should mention that, Bones. That's one of mine, is the guy that's staring at the sun like multiple times. I was like, that's great. Whenever we see...
Oh, I think he's president again now.
Only if there's an eclipse. We see the all the granddaddy long legs, like the family of them, like mating or whatever. Not mating, family and mating shouldn't have went together. But just that in the corner of the old house, of the old Franklin house, I guess. And as they're walking into the Sawyer's place, just that timepiece with that spike through it that's just hanging in the tree, you're just like, what the fuck? That's the weird shit that I love that they're doing there. So I think those are some of my favorite moments of just what's around them as they're going in there. Brantley, I also had the door as well, because I think it's just such a wonderful thing that you already have this movie called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know they're going to go to a house, but then you create this other door that this crazy dude just hit a dude with a hammer and then closes it. So you're also wondering, like, what the fuck is behind that door? Like, I already don't want to be in this house. Now I'm already worried about this other door. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? So great answers, gentlemen. But please go drain your chainsaws, because it's a pee break. All right. You two, Bones, Kron. Let's make with the funny. Come on, what's wrong with you guys? You just lost an election or something? Welcome back to the 5 Day Rentals podcast. We're kind of in the middle of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974, directed by Tobe Hooper, a man that was constantly covered in cigar ash, from what I've understood, because he loves cigars. And he wrote this movie with his friend Kim Hinkle, who I don't know if he's showing up tonight.
Friend of the show. Yeah.
Yeah. My buddy who usually shows up. Well, he's,
we're on the lam. Like, so if he can't like show, if he shows up, the store's exploded. It's gonna be a huge hole in the ground.
He's gonna pop in later.
Send him a text, Kron.
I already sent him the Zoom invite. It's out there for him.
Okay. So, I mean, it's his. He co-directed.
You guys have his phone number or something. If you really want to talk to him, when you get to a point, you call him, and we'll see if he answers.
If we're talking Hinkle, it's kind of the one good thing he did. So
he's gonna get like 4 sweet teas in, and then he's gonna get the feeling like, all right, and come in and knock it out of the park like he always fucking does.
Wait a minute. Did Hinkle work on Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2? Did he at least like help craft that story with Hooper?
No, I looked at this earlier today.
I was gonna say I do like 2 a lot, so
yeah, two is fun. I mean, I actually
2 is fun.
With the exception of 3 and 4, I've kind of enjoyed them all.
Nick, be quiet.
I'm sorry.
There might be a question later about that. Okay.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'm running a little things different tonight. It's the 5-Star Banquet. We're talking about fucking movies that we love here on 5 Day Rentals. We got Brantley and Nick, the gruesome twosome from Horror Drafts here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you
Brantley.
again.
Yeah.
When's that next movie coming out?
Oh man, I don't know. Hopefully it'll be like somewhere nearing a finished film, like a year from now.
Oh, okay.
Like fall of next year. Yeah, that's my goal. We'll see.
All right.
Who knows?
That'll work. Nick, any projects coming up? Or doing now?
No.
Well, I'm glad you.
Hopefully someday.
Yeah. You got a really great Shining piece that I've seen a few times that I laugh at.
Oh, the video! Thank you so much. That's it's making that makes my day.
I think my favorite one is when Shelley Duvall's cigarette just constantly ashes and it
gets longer and longer.
I think that's my favorite. I laugh really hard when I see that.
Nick, if people want to find that, do they just search The Shining, the director's cut? Is that how they find it?
The unauthorized director's cut.
Unauthorized director's cut. There you go.
We gotta link that in the Discord finally.
Yeah, I'll put it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just to answer this question of like what was Hinkle's involvement, so he has the most credits for writing and producing, and it's basically Texas Chainsaw. There's the Netflix one. There's the 2003 remake. There is The Beginnings, which is a 2006, I think, a prequel to the 2003
prequel to the remake. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the one he wrote and directed, The Next Generation. So he has no credits on part 2. So,
Not even like
Or
a
part
based
3.
on character thing?
I mean, he might have that. It's just
Okay.
I'm basing off of what Letterboxd has, and it's a lot of. There are writing and producing, and then there's a smattering of like executive producer, editing, but nothing on TCM2. So,
Okay, gotcha. Then I would agree with your statement about working on one good thing.
I think some of the production stuff too just had to be like, we'll give you a producer's credit if you XYZ, you know, like
Right. Or so we can say from a producer of.
yes.
Yeah.
Some say he is the genius behind all this.
Some
we'll
people
get to
are wrong
that
all the
later.
time too. You know, I don't know.
There might be some questions about that later. All right, we have a plot to this movie, kind of. The film opens of August 18th, 1973. We get a cemetery. We get some vandalization is going on of the grave sites. They're digging them up. We've got somebody here who's created a nice little decoration with the corpses that they've dug up, which looks fucking great. Was this the skeleton that they got from India?
I believe so. Yes, I think this was this, and then when they do those photographs where it gets shot like with those, you just kind of see the bulb going off. I think those are both supposed to be like legit skeletons they got from India because it was cheaper than trying to, you know, buy a skeleton here in America, something like that. This is like obviously before you could just go buy a plastic skeleton like really easily at like your local Spirit Halloween or whatever, and then like, you know, build on it like they did to make the corpse look. But yeah, that was wild when I heard them say that.
Isn't that the rumor with Poltergeist too? Does Toby Hooper just have like
Oh,
a
I
bunch
don't
of
know.
skeletons hanging out in his house? He's like, I'm
Well,
gonna use a different one in every movie.
You buy one for Texas Chainsaw, you keep it for
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
you
right.
know your next project.
Kron, I was going to ask how your bidding is going on the Indian eBays for those skeletons. Are you winning?
I'm involved in so many, but it's like the currency conversion is killing me, dude. I mean,
Really?
yeah, I have no clue how it works. We're up to like, 5,000, and I'm like, well, how many US dollars is this? And it's so difficult.
All right. I'm sure you're going to show him off if you do win one. That's all he'll talk about.
How do these skeletons come? Like, are they glued together? Are you sent like a Lego instruction?
I think they're pinned together, right?
Like what? Because
That's bullshit. The hip bone's not connected to
yeah, it's not efficient,
femur.
man. Like you got to utilize the IKEA concepts, right? Like you got to save on the shipping and packaging to kind of make it cost effective.
It's exactly like IKEA. It's like when you
Right.
get to the end of the project, there's like one or two pieces that are left over, and you can't figure out. And you're like, oh, it's still together. So
I mean, sure, there's
It's
the
just in
Apple
the foot.
There's the Apple concept of like premium cardboard packaging that you could like slide out a 6-foot box from another larger 6-foot box and be like, oh, cool, I can't wait to take the plastic off this.
So
But
satisfying.
like what? I don't know. I just that's why I'm asking because
Is there a QR code like you can scan to like watch a video?
maybe it's AR. Maybe they utilize augmented reality so you know what piece goes where. But
I bet back in the day, you just had to go get the high school biology teacher to be like, how's this shit go together?
You shouldn't have this. I'm leaving.
Now, Dan, they're taking an interest in science. Let's let them keep going with this.
Hey, if you want your bowl of
This
chili
is
and
real.
$50, you'll put this skeleton together.
And I mean, like Legos, a part of the fun is, all right, you put together your Guardians of the Galaxy ship, right? And you sit with it for a day. And then you take all the pieces apart and then you try to figure out how to put it like in a new cool way. So if you got a skeleton, right, you're taking out the spine. You're like, all right, let's see what a starfish-shaped person would look like. Or what would you look like with really long arms, right? And then you get real creative. he's a one-legged man with a real bone, if you know what I mean. Like,
there you go. I'm just wondering what piece you're stepping on in the middle of the night when you're going to the bathroom. You're like,
your mom will tell you.
It's just like a little knuckle or something that rolled away while you were building your project.
Yeah, instead of calling it Legos, it should be like, leg, oh my God, this is a leg bone, in parentheses.
Trademark
Okay.
on that. We haven't got rich off of any of our ideas, by the way.
This could be the one, dude. Toby Hooper wasn't getting rich until he made this movie.
I don't think he was getting rich off of that at the end of this.
Toby Hooper? I thought he got like a good chunk of change on the back end.
There's a lot of millions that they don't know where they went.
I mean, they eventually like made money, but probably not nearly the amount of money they should have made because of their distributor and their shady dealings, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
They got the rights back. That's probably the most important
that's
thing.
probably the biggest thing, yeah.
I feel like on a low budget horror movie though, you don't know it's going to hit this big, so the contracts are probably not ironclad when the money starts rolling in.
Well, yeah, and that became like a big thing because all the actors and stuff who signed on assumed they were getting their cut of like 50% of, or like whatever whatever their cut of like whatever the movie made, not realizing that like it ended up being like 50% of what it was, because there's like the two companies, and then they were splitting the money between the distributor and them. So there was a lot of like hurt feelings for a while, it seems like, because they felt like they weren't getting their fair share.
Yeah, I think Franklin got paid like $200 for his role in this.
Oh yeah, for the roles themselves, they got like nothing. But like, yeah, their deals are supposed to have points on the back end, and wasn't as much as they felt they should get. And it probably wasn't, just because I forget the name of the distributor, but
Vortex was
Vortex was
Ken's.
The combo, right?
Yeah.
But then there was the distributor that was like Bradley or something like that.
It was something like that, and they primarily did porn movies, I believe, and were,
hell yeah,
mobbed up. So it's like trying to get the money you should be owed from them is a little difficult, more so than other distributors, I would imagine.
They sued, and they sued for millions, and I think they got $400K plus the rights, I think, in the end, and they were like, all right, that's probably all we're gonna get.
Well, because didn't the distributor just like go bankrupt and like fold, basically? So yeah, they got
Bryanston Pictures.
Bryanston, there you go. Yeah.
Who did put out Deep Throat? Speaking of, didn't you talk about Deep Throat earlier?
Mm-hmm. Another movie that made a ton of money, but I think a lot of people involved didn't see much of it.
No, we watched Karan deep throat a banana.
Mm-hmm.
She just had to show us.
Yeah, when are you gonna spit that thing back out, dude?
Yeah, dude, I don't see it come out.
I gotta get my sugars, dude. I mean,
you left the skin on.
Yeah, that's all fucking fiber and roughage and shit, dude.
He got acid reflux. I'm sure to eat through it in there.
Hmm.
All right.
You can swallow. Hey, if you're listening, you can swallow a whole banana. It ain't shit.
You can.
You can do that.
How do you peel a banana?
How do I peel a banana?
Yeah.
How do you peel a banana?
It feels like there's a really easy way to normally do it. Right?
Well, I literally had this conversation like a week ago.
You peel it
Was
from
there
the
like
bottom.
a TV show or something where Only Murders in the Building, I think the latest season has a whole scene about how you peel a banana, and that is crazy if you do it any other way but just like this. But I don't peel a banana that way. I will, I'll peel it from the top, but I do it sideways so I can take the whole peel off. I hate that people like strip some of it down and then eat until they get to and then they have to peel off the rest. It's like, how long does it take to eat a fucking banana? I just peel the whole thing, throw the peel away.
I hate when my hands get sticky.
Yeah.
I like that it has a protective the thing around it, so my fingers won't get all sticky from the sugar and roughage, like Kron was just saying.
I guess.
No,
it's a built-in wrapper that you can eat the banana with.
This is my point. You don't peel it.
I'm with
You're
Nick.
losing valuable fiber.
I'm with Nick. I take the whole banana out. I even take the end piece off. That's like
Yeah, because it's always like hard
Yeah.
and brown, and then
throw
then
that
you're fine.
away,
You're good to go.
And then you eat the banana.
Yeah, you're
Yep.
wasting banana.
No,
It's fine. It's totally fine. I'm with Brantley.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But also, if it's in the wrapper and the like the very like edge of it, the bottom is brown, you can just break it off like with the thing, and you don't have to touch that smushy brown part.
Yeah.
I mean, it still makes you feel more like a man that you like.
Yeah, I like to just no, I hate in
Bradley
movies,
Trump's
like,
in office. You got to peel a banana like a man.
Yeah.
But for the record, you're supposed to peel it from the bottom. It breaks cleaner. You don't get all the fibers and stuff. So
But
it's
the bottom has that like hardened thing. So what do? You cut it with a knife?
you
and then
just
peel
you
it?
just manhandle it. You just pinch and
Okay.
squeeze, and it'll break. And you'll realize that you get far fewer like hangers on in the peel. That's how the gorillas do it.
You eat the peel. You eat the brown parts. You eat the string, the little fibers that hang on
You
there.
eat the
it
dull
all.
sticker.
Yeah, you eat the sticker.
That's your tracer.
I buy them and I put them in the top of the cart, and my son takes them off and sticks them to his face now. So I'll take it off and scan it and weigh it, and I'll stick it back on his face. He thinks it's hilarious, but he's only 2. He's not all the way there. He's 2.
I mean, that's pretty advanced like
Yeah.
comedy for a 2-year-old, honestly.
He can do all the way up to 12. He counted today. It's like,
Hey,
oh shit.
there you go.
I might not have to if I can blow my retirement on NFL gambling.
No, it sounds like he could be managing your retirement pretty soon with the level he's at right now.
There's
Dan,
not gonna
you
be
were-
anything left.
You were sitting there taking notes once you got past 10.
Yeah, I was like 11.
We're in uncharted territory here, buddy. Following your lead.
You're past the fingers, dude. I can't keep up with you anymore.
You're the smart one in the family now. You need to cut your toenails, you freak. All right. We got these corpse sculptures here. They look great. Fucking melting in the fucking hot heat. We got our cast here. We got Sally. We got her brother Franklin, who's wheelchair bound. We got Kirk. We got Pam. And what's the other fucking guy's name? Jerry?
Jerry, yeah.
Jerry,
all
the native New York Texan.
Yeah, you know, he moved to Austin for the weed, and now he's having a good time. They're headed to Franklin and Sally's family's grave, or their grandparents' grave, to make sure that nothing has been messed with from these grave robbers. So that's why they're on this trip today. They're in a van. They get there. They discover that the grave is fine. We get all this. As Toby Hooper does, he does a wonderful job of just finding some of the weirdest fucking characters that you can find. If you are a fan of his filmography, you'll notice that throughout. But yeah, just some weird ass dudes. One guy just grabs Sally and's like, "Come on with me, girl. I'll take you and show you."
I really like the shot of the guy that's like laying on his back with his head tilted all the way, and he's like got a beer bottle next to him.
And the tire.
Yeah.
There's
That's-
great cuts around that for sure. Yeah. Like
Yeah. That dude was like a local like theater actor or something in Texas that like they knew, and that's how he got the role in it. Which I don't know if that ended up being in the notes or whatever, but I just remember that from doing the research because they're talking about how much they love that guy.
He's good.
Yeah.
And he's in a tire. I'm like, that's fucking great. All right, they discovered that the grave's fine. It's all intact. Franklin decides, hey, let's go visit the old family house. So he asks where the Franklin house is, which I don't know if that was... Is that a mistake? I don't know if that's ever been talked about.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is like, it was weird when he was saying that because you'd think it would be the last name, but then again, I don't remember. I don't know what their last name is.
I mean,
so.
he's so annoying. I can fully buy that his name is Franklin.
Isn't it Hardesty?
Yes.
Is it Hardesty? Yeah, there you go, Hardesty. Yeah, you'd think he would say the old Hardesty house.
But is Franklin a family name? Like,
yeah, maybe it was
his
like
grandfather was
like off the
that's
mom's
true.
side, and then they
made
the last
so that's
name
his
the
first name.
Yeah.
Yeah. I should have thought of that. I have family members like that.
well, see, that's a different way of thinking. I was just thinking like he was just Big Franklin, or something. Like his first name was Franklin, and he's a junior or something, or a third. He's named after his grandfather, but.
I gotcha.
All right. Along the way, they decide to go to the old Franklin place. He tells them where it is. He's like, "Hey, you guys shouldn't be, just going into people's houses, snooping around people's places. Like, maybe you shouldn't do that." But they're like, fuck that. We're young. We're dumb. Let's go." Along the way, they pass the slaughterhouse. Franklin describes that I guess his grandpa used to work there. His family used to work there back in the day. So Sally and Franklin lived around this area. So makes a little sense. He talks about how they used to hit him with a sledgehammer. Now they have an air gun. If you've ever seen Anton Chigurh, you understand what that is.
I was going to ask, did Cormac watch and love this movie and build a character based off that?
I mean, he might have just worked at a fucking slaughterhouse.
Yeah. Brantley, Nick, you guys ever read Blood Meridian?
No.
No, I'd read No Country for Old Men, and I think I'd meant to read Blood Meridian, but I never did.
I finished the audiobook this week, and it's going to be my personality for the next month, I think.
Okay. How would you describe that personality to the listeners who have not read Blood Meridian?
I think you're going to go through a weird cycle of, or if you were to read it, of what the fuck did I just read? Like weird revelations as you think about it, then distrust in humanity, then you'll level out and be neutral of okay. And then I think depending on how psycho you are determines if you think of it as a positive or a negative. But it's...
Okay. I also remembered I've read The Road, so that's another book about distrust in humanity from Cormac that I have read. But I don't think it goes much beyond that. It's pretty much just distrust of humanity, 99% of that book.
Well, Dan gave me The Road to read, 10 years ago or so? Maybe even earlier than that. And I started it, and the punctuation issue was a genuine issue, and I only made it a few chapters. So Blood Meridian was something I'd always heard of, and I thought maybe there's an audio version of it. And sure enough, even in the audio version, you can tell, because there is no he said. You kind of have to fill in the gaps of who the fuck is talking. But anyway, I'm sure I'm going to be talking about it on the next 2 episodes of the 5-Star Banquets, so I apologize ahead of time.
As you should. It's a wonderful piece of work.
Yeah.
And next you should probably do All the Pretty Horses, maybe.
Okay.
It's a Border series, so there's 3 of them.
I think I need to do a pulp hard case crime, sort of simple titties and gambling sort of story.
Yeah.
Realign my center.
Before, don't do Outer Dark or... Yeah, that's even way bleaker than what you just read.
Yeah.
All right, along the way, we pass the slaughterhouse. They pick up a hitchhiker here, Edwin Neal. Big movie poster salesman, from what I understand, there in Austin. Still lives there. Texas.
I keep buying them, dude. It's fucking lucrative business.
He is the hitchhiker they pick up. Of course, he shines with bizarre behavior throughout this process.
How does he, when he has a fire sale, does that mean you got to buy this before I set it on fire in a van? Okay.
It's all part of the, experience.
Okay.
At least he's like true to what he says, though. Fire sale literally means like you got to buy it now because 2 minutes from now it'll be on fire.
Yeah.
So Edwin Neal is the hitchhiker. This is Leatherface's brother. He does invite them to dinner at his place.
Is this Chop Top? That's another. Okay.
If you watch 2 at the very beginning when they're on like the bridge and they first meet up with the 2 like frat boys, the hitchhiker, the skeleton that they have is Edwin Neal in the truck. So he's with them. So Chop Top is his brother, I believe.
So
The
Chop Top
hitchhiker's brother.
is not in part 1.
No.
Okay.
So he's like a 6-shooter.
No, they use a chainsaw.
If
They
it
use
helps
any
you to
guns.
put it in Puppet Master terms, then yes, I think that's canonically correct.
And Chris, I didn't bring it up on this episode. Okay? Just note that. You son of a bitch.
I didn't say anything. I just brought up a character.
That's Bones. Not
Kron
Dan.
filled in the crack.
All right, the hitchhiker, he takes a photo of Franklin and the other people in the van with a Polaroid camera, demands a $2 payment. Franklin's like, yeah, fuck that. He crumples up the photo, sets it on fire. He just uses a piece of tinfoil, It's pretty cool. He cuts his own hands with Franklin's pocket knife. Franklin loves to clean his fingernails with his pocket knife. The guys manage to throw him out of the van, but before he cuts Franklin with his straight razor that he has in his boot. Before he does leave, he manages to smear the van with his own blood. Is it a sign? We don't know. All right, they're running low on fuel like everybody in America at this point. So they stop at a rural filling station up ahead. We get some strange ass dudes here that come out. One guy's staring at the sun. The other is Jim Seidel. I believe he's their uncle.
So this was very confusing. I'd read some things that said he's supposed to be a brother as well, just an older brother, and then because a lot of people thought he was like a dad as well. I'm still not like 100% sure what his relationship is to like Leatherface and the hitchhiker there.
I think a lot of them took it as their dad, but I think Toby said he's supposed to actually be an uncle, but I don't know if he like established that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not established in the film, but which I think is why a lot of people thought it was like the dad.
Yeah, I mean,
Which works.
he's quite a bit older than Leatherface and the hitchhiker seem to be.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, given this family, he could be the brother and the dad, or the uncle and a brother,
This ain't Arkansas.
Okay.
All right, he tells him that, my tanks are empty and the truck's not coming.
Who's sleeping with these people, Dan? What woman is volunteering to get involved in this family?
You probably got to drive up to Arkansas.
Yeah. Texas, Arkansas, they're pretty close. The man says my tank's empty and the truck's not showing up till later tonight, so y'all need to figure out something to do because I don't got no gas. They head over to Franklin's old dad's house or grandpa's place, whichever one. Hardesty, is that what their name was, Nick?
Yeah, yes, I believe so.
This guy says, you shouldn't be poking around like other people's places. I think I covered that beforehand.
Just get some barbecue and chill out.
Yeah, they buy some barbecue and they depart to the family's house. They arrive. Sally and Pam go off looking for the abandoned house. Franklin finds it hard to get around because, of course, he is in a wheelchair. He's disabled. He's frustrated that the other couples are having fun, and he's not. He blows some raspberries. On this watch, I didn't think Franklin was as annoying. On my rewatches.
He's pretty annoying.
Yeah. But I agree with both of you. I do think he's annoying, but the more I've watched this film, the less annoying I find him.
Is that just sympathy with old age? Or old, like, as
Possibly.
you're maturing, you're starting to, like, I can kind of empathize
Possibly.
with what he's going through.
I didn't find him that
I mean-
annoying this time either.
Nah.
I feel for him, actually.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's like acting in an annoying way, but like I feel like he has valid reasons for doing that. I'd be freaking pissed off too, especially if it was my sister was ignoring me, not, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like the only one who wants to, you know, later on, which we'll get to, but obviously when Sally wants to go looking for the other two, he's the smart one, saying like, let's go back and talk to the police or whatever. She's the annoying one in that scene, in my opinion. She's like, no, I've been ignoring you all day. We're going to do it my way. I found that, honestly, a little bit more off-putting. He was like the only one with some sense. And then I felt really bad when she was like, no, I'm doing it. And he's like, all right, fine, okay, I'm coming with you. I'll come with you. And even then, she was like, no, I'm going. I'm going to leave you here in the dark, and you can't move. And that's the way that's going to be.
But she does come back and push him.
She does.
So I think that's her way of like, yeah, it's kind of a bitch.
That's when the movie really turns around and becomes a lot more uplifting.
Yeah.
Feel good movie of the summer.
Well, and this was, I mean, yeah, I imagine being confined in a wheelchair in the 70s really sucks. This is what, a couple decades before the ADA gets signed into law?
Yeah.
Right? That was under Clinton. So, talking like 20-ish years at least. And there's still plenty of places that don't. That still don't have it. You go into like so many cities, like just to go into a store, there's like 2 steps to get up. You're just like, great. How does someone right now in 2024 with a wheelchair enter your store right now? You know?
Go online.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. Franklin gives Pam and Kirk directions to the old swimming hole that's nearby. They head out. They find it completely dried up. Kirk hears a gas generator nearby. So he's
Dan,
like, oh, shit.
To your point about like the timepiece with the spike through it, that was part of a deleted scene.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, they shot a sequence where like that couple comes across that tent and they're like kind of freaked out. What is all of this? And in the commentary, he talks about like that they thought it played better if they just walked past it. So they were able to kind of cut it that way and then just use that. So you as the viewer got a little sense of it before they did.
Well, it worked.
Yeah.
Because I fucking love that. I love that. I love that shit. All right, he hears the gas generator nearby. Thank you, Bones, for that great insight. That's what we do here on 5 Day Rentals. If you're a first-time listener, welcome.
This is not the show. This is not, don't, this is not a good starting point. Nope.
We are serious.
Yeah, jump back to the
Podcast.
puppet coverage and then come back for this one.
Hey, pre-pod, we talked about Kron spray painting his ass silver. So, there you go.
It's still like that. It doesn't wash off, dude.
Your chair says otherwise.
I've ruined so many pairs of underwear.
I stopped
Ruined or
wearing 'em.
enhanced?
I'm not wearing them anymore.
What's a skid mark and what's spray paint?
It's hard to tell, dude.
Yep.
I bet your sharks look so cool.
Yeah.
All right, here's his
It's just
generator.
a silver banana peel that flies out of me, dude.
Are you surprised? Like you don't have to wipe?
I'm not surprised because I
It's just a
know
banana peel.
I know everything I've put in me.
Is it just the banana peel? I would think that if you ate the thing whole, it would digest.
Well, why don't you eat a banana peel and you tell me?
Okay, I'm
how it
sorry
comes
for
out.
assuming, I guess. Yeah.
Again, another experiment to do at the next meetup.
Mm-hmm.
Brantley and Nick, you will be invited.
Oh, thank you. I got to see that.
Firm decline already.
Hard pass. All right, Kirk, here's his fucking generator. He's like, if he's got a generator, they got gas. Let's go check it out.
And I bet they need a
Follow
guitar.
the sound. They discover a large farmhouse surrounded by a whole bunch of abandoned vehicles. Guys, which brings me to another question. Is this a system for the Sawyer family of killing people? Or is this just a panicked reaction from intruders that's going on when this happens?
It's a good question because, like, they certainly don't have a very
Nick.
good setup to lure victims into their house, what with being in the middle of nowhere. And you have to wonder where all those people came from. Obviously, some of it is presumably grave robbing, right? Where some of the stuff in their house comes from. But, I mean, they seem to have this down to a science, more or less. So, like, yeah, where are they getting everybody?
I thought the blood was him marking the paint, because it had been so long since I had seen it that I thought, oh, that's his way of marking the van. So when they stop at the gas station, the brother knows, oh, these are people I'm going to pull. But he doesn't really seem to try in that event. He lets them leave.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's also, how would he know they're going to be making their way towards like their home in any way? You know, he doesn't know when he's getting out, like, that they're going to stop at the gas station or, you know, any of that stuff.
I feel like they're somewhat opportunistic. And even Leatherface, like, when everybody starts coming into the house, he's like genuinely confused as to why people keep showing up there. I mean, he's gonna kill them, but he's like, what the fuck is happening today?
Him running to the window and looking out like, are there fucking more of them? What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 'cause he's supposed to be watching Leatherface, our hitchhiker here. And maybe they show up, he sells them some gas, and they go about their day. But I guess since he wasn't there, Leatherface is having that reaction to just like, who are these fucking people coming in my house? This is my reaction. But then, yeah, you see the cover up of the other cars, and you're like, well, was that just an accident too of maybe people looking for gas? Or bring it back to Bones, where, like, did he mark the van to say, hey, this is a good selection to make for this?
It's probably just good use of what is out there, right? I mean, not to say this thing is uniquely American, but that's pretty American. The old worn down house with a bunch of old cars that were just abandoned. So I think it adds a richness to, it's like easy set design. So if you throw some tarps over it, like, oh, these are cars from victims that they're hiding now. And you sort of just build out the world however you want.
All right, I'm trying to find my spot where I left off. Great answers, though, guys. Thank you.
Who's winning?
Right now I got Brantley at +4. Nick is 1 point behind. Kron -6. Bones, third place.
Cool.
This is a fucking rigged ass podcast, dude.
I know.
I'm gonna make you guys watch puppet movies again for this fucking shit.
All right. Of course, it's surrounded by abandoned vehicles. They're hidden. Kirk finds a human tooth on the front porch, frightens Pam with it. She goes over and sits on the nice swing. He keeps knocking on the door. They get no answers. Like any dumb kid, I guess he just walks right in a house. You shouldn't do that, children. Never walk in anybody's house. He goes into the house, and in a span of a few moments, an enormous man with a weird mask comes out and murders him with a blow to the head via a hammer. This is Leatherface, if you didn't know.
The seizure just enhances this kill.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pam becomes restless on the swing. This is where we get our super beautiful tracking shot of Pam walking to the house, into the darkness of the house.
It goes like under the swing, right?
Goes under the swing.
Pretty impressive for the budget they're working on. Like it looks good.
They had 40 feet of track, I believe. And they had a guy laying on the cart with the camera out and down so they could get as low and in front of the cart as possible and maximize their distance. And in the commentary, this was not one of the originally planned shots. They came up with this on the day, and they went back and forth and had like a screaming match with like all the people trying to keep them on schedule. Like it was presented as we could do this, and then it became like Toby, cinematographer, everybody was like, we got to do this. We're going to do it. And it became like a make or break thing.
Worth it.
Yeah.
Great shot.
Yeah.
It works. Before Kirk was murdered, they brought towels to go to this creek to swim, and he puts his towel over like the railing of the front porch here. So Pam walks in because she hasn't heard from Kirk, which brings me to another question of, is Toby Hooper and Kim Hinkle geniuses, or was this just happy accidents that happened to where they got these great shots and it turned out the way it did? I know it's kind of mixed, but
I mean, I feel like it's a combination of the two. I feel like they're clearly talented filmmakers to be able to, say, oh, we got to get this shot that goes under the swing. And it's like, well, why is that necessary? And it's like, it'll just look really good in the fucking movie. But I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but like blowing up 16 to 35, it accentuates the graininess, which gives it a more realistic feel. But I'm sure if you had approached Kim Hinkle and Toby Hooper at the time and said, we'll pay for your 35 millimeter camera, they would have jumped at the choice to do it, So it's like there's some stuff that by limitation has made this a better movie, but you also have to have clearly talented people to be able to use the resources that are available to them to make something so good.
I agree. I think it's talent for sure. That shot like makes the house a character. Like at first it's just a house, and then that shot when she's like walking up to it and it's towering over her, it's like becomes so much more than that. And that was something I was struck by this time watching this movie. Like, there's so many tracking shots. Not something I would have expected. Again, with a movie called Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like it's just very like they're all like really well executed tracking shots too. There's a lot of good cinematography in this movie. Like frankly, it looks pretty gorgeous. I saw like an HD transfer for the first time, and yeah, really, really good looking movie. I think they clearly know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's so well done that on the 4K release of it, I was finally able to see the tube be hiding behind the knife that the hitchhiker uses when he cuts his hand. Like,
oh wow,
it was finally clear enough that you could kind of see how they were like doing that, making the blood come out. But even to that, like knowing that they had to shoot 16 millimeter, they used, I forget what type of film, but it's basically like super, like whatever fast film or whatever. So they had to light it 4 times more than they normally would have and everything. But like, obviously they were smart enough to know like, okay, if we're shooting 16 millimeter, we want to use this kind of film because it gives us this best look. But like, they also were smart enough to know how to plan around using that kind of film, not just like the camera angles and selection that they had and things like that. Like, I think they're very competent filmmakers, very good filmmakers, and then a little bit of good fortune on set where happy accidents happen and they decide to plan a shot that they weren't originally planning to do, and then it comes out brilliantly. So, yeah.
Yeah, like that macro shot of the eyeball, according to your notes, was
After
on
the fact.
pickups, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And a true test of genius is what you do inside of limitation. So, Tony Stark built an arc reactor in a cave with a box of scraps.
That's your audition to play that character in the remake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't he scream that at a character?
Oh yeah, the dude goes crazy.
Yeah, isn't that his like exact line? Tony Stark built an arc reactor in a cave, or whatever. Is a very, very similar line. But I just imagine your delivery. That's how you would have played Jeff Bridges' character in that film.
Yeah, man.
Jebediah, that's what.
Yeah, man.
Which is oddly weird because in the remake, there's a weird little kid named Jebediah running around like the housing area.
You remember
Jebediah? What's your name?
Oh,
Jebediah.
You're talking about the Jessica Biel remake. I'm thinking of the one from 2 years ago that immediately left my brain.
That is not in here.
Yeah.
The remake is. I think the towel over the banister on the porch is fucking brilliant. Because if he didn't step on the tooth, that wouldn't push Pam to the swing, which causes Kirk, I believe, to go in and get hit. So she doesn't see that. If he didn't step on the tooth, she wouldn't have seen that. Maybe they would have never went in the house. So she wanders, she walks in, and that is the end of her. But when Jerry goes back, he still sees the towel. And it's like, oh, so they went in there because the towel's still here. And I think that one little thing of, oh, just throw the towel over the banister. And that's how people are going to go to the house. I just think I'm like, it's so small, but it works. So good.
Yeah, like they're right there. That's an example of like either that's like heads up writing where they knew they had to have a motive for or that's like something that they probably realized and had to do pickups for. Like, oh shit, like there's no motivation whatsoever for this person to like go into the house. How do we get something on the banister? Well, okay, there could be a swimming hole, and like I'm not saying that seems too complicated considering how many scenes would be affected by that, including like them talking about how to get to the swimming hole a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, that's just like good planning, good writing.
Yeah, I know Cass would get pissed off because Toby and Hooper would talk for hours about what they wanted to film and how they would film it beforehand, before they would start the day. And they would just be like, hurry the fuck up, like it's hot out here. But they would sit there and discuss everything that they were going to do. So I think that pays off, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, Brantley.
No, I was going to say, I think the cast and all the crew were angry at everybody else on the set during most of this filming. It sounded like a miserable experience from the behind the scenes stuff.
All right, Kirk already got hit. Pam becomes restless. She's on the bench. We do the tracking shot. Beautiful. She walks into the house. She stumbles into the room that was filled with human and animal bones and all other sorts of beautiful things that you can finally fucking see on the Blu-ray and the 4K now, because on the VHS That shit was dark as hell, but beautiful. You can see it all now. Nick, I think, mentioned it earlier, just how much time you spend in that room and how you spin around it and just see you got the fucking chicken in a cage. You got feathers all over the floor. It's great. It really puts you into like, what? Where the fuck are we? I don't want to be here. We also have furniture that is built out of bones, and they look human, a lot of them. Some are animals, I guess. But you got all that weird shit.
That was a real Ed Gein thing, right? Didn't he make lampshades and shit?
Kron is standing up and showing us his belt made of nipples. Look, where you got that, you freak?
I made it. You can't. This ain't off the rack shit, dude.
Yeah, but this should be off the record. You shouldn't say that on the pod. Like,
okay, fine. It's pig nipples. What do you want from me?
You ever suck on them?
Next question.
All right. Teach their own. Leatherface does appear and lunges at her. She runs onto the porch, but he catches her. He carries her in. She's kicking and screaming, and he hangs her from a meat hook by her back. She does hang here while Leatherface pumps up the chainsaw, starts it, and dismembers Kirk there. Takes him apart with it. Not very bloody at all.
Nope.
All right,
it's all
back.
Disturbing though. It is.
Yes.
It's so weird that, like, they sent this to the MPAA. And they were like, "It's a hard R," and Toby Hooper was like, "Well, it's kind of funny though, and there's no blood." They were like, "What the fuck are you talking about? You
Are you
weirdo!"
insane?
Yeah.
All right, back at the Franklin house, we'll call it. Sally and the others start wondering where Pam and Kirk are. They haven't returned yet. The sun's starting to set. Jerry sets out. He goes along. He does hear the generator as well. He does see Kirk's blanket or towel or whatever that he hung on the front porch that I mentioned earlier. So that's what draws him into the house. Jerry walks into the kitchen, discovers Pam locked in a large freezer, which is a pretty good scare, I guess, as she comes out of it.
Don't you know you're just supposed to shoot the freezer? Because the chick inside might be playing sex games with you.
That's a fucking spoiler alert for people who haven't seen that movie, okay?
Well, you don't know what movie I'm talking about. I didn't say the name of it.
I, too, figured it out pretty, about halfway through. I was like, okay.
Okay.
Which I think it would have worked better if they would have just had the dude do it, maybe?
I think it needed to go one step further in terms of the agreement.
What are you talking about?
What was the magic word?
All right, good. I'm not the only one.
If you know, you know. If you don't know, we're not. I don't think we're ruining anything for you.
We didn't spoil anything then.
Nope.
What was their word?
Don't.
Mr. Snuffleupagus.
Yeah.
Snuffleupagus. Okay. If you guys need me to stop at any point, you get wheezy, just say Snuffleupagus and I'll stop. All right, she comes out of the freezer, scares the shit out of him. Fucking Leatherface comes back out and hits the dude with hammer. This got that like noise on it, super fast.
When you watch this in '74, are you thinking, all right, he's only used the chainsaw once and the hammer twice.
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little cheated. I know there's a gas shortage, but I think I pronounced gash shortage, by the way.
Never a problem
For the
in my
record,
head, dude.
because if I catch it, it doesn't count as a mistake.
Okay. You'll catch it.
I just thought that was Paul Verhoeven's accent coming
Okay.
out. The gash.
Gash shortage. I bet he
you
loves
go.
this movie, dude.
He's really not the director
yeah.
that we want on this show tonight, but I mean, I'll take him.
That's who we're going to get.
All right, Leatherface, clearly distraught. Duh. And he's upset about the strangers that keep coming into his house. Nightfall comes. Sally and Franklin, they're by themselves. They're like, where the fuck is Jerry? Where the fuck is Pam and Kirk? They go back and forth and argue, but of course Franklin can't really move too easily through the woods because Sally's wanting to search for Pam and all them, and Kirk and Jerry. Mostly Jerry because Jerry's her man.
So this span of woods is like the same little area, and they just set the track up in different orientations. So Toby made it seem like it wasn't even 30 feet across in any direction. They just sort of cheated it every time to give it the feel that it was, a long stretch. And I think it's effective. Like my discerning eye, I never felt like, okay, it's a Looney Tunes loop.
It's our Bond theme. Huh?
Yeah.
Franklin is in a wheelchair. He does finally agree to go with Sally to look. But as they approach the house, Leatherface comes out of fucking nowhere and just saws Franklin in half, ramming a chainsaw into his chest. Sally flees. Leatherface runs directly behind her. They chase each other, or he chases her through all these woods, as Bones just mentioned, back and forth, back and forth. She does finally reach the house, but she's unaware that the house is, of course, belongs to Leatherface and his family, his great family. She runs upstairs. She finds two disfigured people. She finds an old man and an old lady. One's a skeleton, the other one's just sitting there dead. Leatherface corners her. She leaps out the window and makes a run for it.
That's the Friday the 13th game method. I don't know if you guys ever played that.
Did anybody play the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game?
The video game?
Yeah, I didn't play the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one, but the Friday the 13th game,
I played it.
what you could do is, like, if you had enough health sprays, you could just go up to the second floor of a house, and then if Jason came up into that house, you could just jump out of the window, because it took forever for Jason to run all the way back. So you could just jump out the window, health spray, and then run to the other side of the house and go back up. You could kind of do that a few times if you needed to outlast.
It's a good strategy.
It was a fun, bad game.
I always got killed, like, putting the battery in the car, I think.
Yeah.
I'd get the key, and then I'd get the gas, and then... Like,
well, it's tough. If you pick one of the fast characters, you're not mechanically inclined. If you pick a mechanically inclined character, you're not athletic.
They knew what they were doing.
It's like real life, dude.
Yeah, you can't be both mechanical and buff at the same time.
You think Usain Bolt knows how to change a car battery?
Mm-mm. Why would he need to?
Yeah, he just runs. It runs faster. Yeah. Why go to AutoZone?
All right, Sally runs. She reaches the gas station. Leatherface disappears, but the old man from the gas station takes Sally in for help. She notices a smoke pit where all the barbecue is made, so she's kind of staring at it. The old man returns and suddenly starts attacking Sally. She tries to defend herself with a kitchen knife.
Do you guys think the barbecue is
people?
Yeah.
I don't. All right, do
you think it's good though? Like, are they putting like a dry rub on it and then?
You get some of those guys that are like, more sauce on barbecue means it's bad barbecue. So, what do they have? Is the Texas style saucy?
No.
Or are they more like a dry smoke, dry rub, like you were talking? Because I feel like that's harder to fake or to hide. What do I know? I've never eaten a person. I don't know.
Texas is more brisket.
Call Arnie Hammer.
Yeah, but I mean, is the brisket? I feel like the brisket I get here, it's like the cut of meat, and then you get like a barbecue sauce with it.
Yeah, they got their sauces, but they're not.
So they're not dry rub people. They're
like a brisket dippers.
I think Texas is
Like a
more dry
Dunkaroos? Are you dipping it?
Is it a wet sauce or a dry sauce down there, Dan?
You get your wet sauce when you get your food, but you can also you can get your brisket extra fatty or lean, however you want it. Then you have your sauce. They don't put their sauce on during the smoking process and let it smoke with the sauce in it.
That's how it is here.
Dry.
You get the sauce on the side. You just get the meat. Like, that's what you're buying.
It's usually like salt, pepper. That's all you're getting.
What's New Hampshire barbecue?
Non-existent. I can't.
Yeah,
I don't know where to
Crab
get
meat
barbecue.
and shit.
or the barbecue places around here are just like styled after other parts of the country.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Right, that's true.
Yeah.
Texas Jacks or some shit.
Yeah, there's a little independent place down the road from me here in Keene called CCDC, and I love their brisket. Like they got a great brisket.
CCDC?
So, yeah. I forget what it stands for.
Yeah. I saw some killer punk shows there back in the 70s, dude.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what it stood for.
For those about to smoke, we salute you.
Yeah.
Or for those about to rack, we salute you. There you go.
Oh, you know what New Hampshire barbecue would be? It would be they'd use a lot of maple syrup in whatever sauce they do.
You're probably right.
It'd be a sweet, that's what it would be.
Yeah, that doesn't do it.
I like maple and a baked bean.
There you go. Yeah.
Not on the brisket though.
Or it would incorporate like apple and stuff in it or something too,
And granite.
And granite. Yeah, there you go.
That's how they keep costs down. It's like 75% granite, 25% meat.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Would that keep costs down?
I don't know. How much does granite cost?
I don't know, but
There's
I feel
so much
like
of it.
if you get a slab of it, like,
Yeah, that's true.
and you're sawing it into pieces, like you get like a countertop sized one.
Oh, I figured they buy it like crushed. Yeah, no, if you're buying a slab and then the manual labor to saw it into pieces, that's not cost effective at all.
No way.
This is just turned into like the most East Coast podcast right now. And I love it. I fucking love it. Gentlemen, you brought up barbecue. You brought up cannibalism multiple times. Which brings me to my next plot question of, is this a cannibal thing?
Yeah, they're eating these people.
Yeah. Gramps is sucking on her bleeding finger. I mean, they're yeah.
Wait, so can I ask a question?
I don't think so.
Whoa. Okay.
I guess we're breaking all the rules tonight.
Kind of unheard
on
of.
the podcast.
Well,
I'll allow it.
Okay.
okay. All right. Well, all right. I'll just ask it. You guys don't have to answer it. No, because like when you asked about when they're at the station and she's staring at the barbecue, I noticed that this time too. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And again, in hindsight, having seen like the sequels, I'm like, oh, I wonder if they're like cooking people and selling it to as barbecue at the gas station. Whereas like I think even in this movie, disregarding the sequels, I kind of get the impression that when the dinner scene happens or whatever, like there might be some. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past them to have eaten some people, to be serving her people, but do they also sell it at the gas station? Because isn't that their whole thing in the sequels?
Two with chili, yeah.
I feel like in the first one, if I had to guess, they're selling actual good barbecue at the gas station. And like it's just like a personal hobby to cook and eat people at home.
Yeah, it doesn't establish that this is a cannibal thing in this movie, but there are like hints. Like there's other cars there. There's a butcher block, a meat hook, but they also worked at the meat factory. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yeah, they're definitely hints. Also, like they use every part of the animal. Like what makes why would they waste the meat?
That was going to be my point. It's like if you're building furniture out of the bones,
Yeah.
I think you're eating them. And they're bringing in roadkill, so they're taking whatever
Yeah.
they can get. So
Yeah. And when he's in the meat hook room, when he's carving up the guy with the chainsaw, it's butcher paper all along the walls that like gets covered in blood and splattered in it. I mean, it's kind of another little hint that they're, butchering for consumption there.
He's keeping her in a freezer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just common sense if you're going to say, like, you can't eat a single person in one sitting, so.
I wonder how much was considered or
So you think?
purposely left out for sake of rating, too.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
Like, no matter how little blood we show, if we heavily imply that it's cannibalism, that's going to lock us in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Toby goes full throttle on that in two. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you got your uncle here. He comes back. He's the one at the chili competitions. So, I can see it.
And the original title was Head Cheese. There's that whole conversation about head cheese and like nasty stuff that you eat, and that kind of thing. So I feel like it's pretty implied that they're eating people, at least at home. I think maybe at the gas station too. I know Nick thinks it's just a hobby at home right now and they haven't gone big leagues yet with it, but I don't know. I see, you got 3, 4, 5 people there that you've killed. How many, how long is that going to last you at home? Or do you just start like selling off the excess,
Yes, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, Sally tries to fight off this old man with a knife, but he gets a fucking broom and takes advantage of Sally and knocks her ass out. He ties her up, puts her in the truck, takes her back to the house. He picks up our hitchhiker along the way. They all live there. They're all related. They hang out with Leatherface. They tie Sally to a chair inside the house, and it's time for dinner. They remove the bag from her head, and the hitchhiker recognizes her. Sally screams constantly for the next 30 minutes. That's all you hear.
Maybe it's unfair to make fun of how slow she runs since she's probably out of breath from having to scream.
When they say scream queen, like, she's got it. Like, Academy Award. All right, our family torments her for the rest of the night. They force her to sit at the table to eat a meal. The notes that I've seen said, which are obviously made up of human flesh. But like I said, I think Toby is light on that. He doesn't really he wants it to be more up here to the viewer than show it.
Dan pointed to his head.
It's an audio medium, not a visual medium. We can't get Kron. We try to blur him out, but he's too sexy, so the blur.
Hey, if you want to see my sexy silver ass.
He has tried one podcast to talk with his asshole, like just his butt cheeks the whole time, and we just laughed too hard, so we couldn't make it through an episode. We might put that on the Patreon or something.
Hey, I got that thing to say ahoy, dude.
Yeah, it was cool. Like, Kron's butt became my best friend for like a week. And then he stopped, and it was kind of lame. I kind of want your butt back, dude.
Stop trying to put quarters in it. It's not how it works, dude.
You slide a credit card.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
None of my
that's
wishes
better.
came true.
It's not water. Kind of. All right, they bring Grandpa downstairs. They slice open Sally's finger. Of course, this is the famous...
They just really cut her finger.
What's his name? Gunther?
Gunner.
Gunner.
Hanson.
He finally just took the tape off because they had so many takes of it that it just cut her finger. So
Yeah, I think it was so hot in that scene. because it's brutal heat, and then they had the lights on in this room, and it stank disgustingly because they had like the dead animals in there. But I think whatever was happening with the blood that they were trying to get to come out of the tube that they had behind the knife, it just kept like getting jammed and gunked up, so they couldn't get it to work. So and everyone was on like their wits end at that point. So Gunnar just eventually just took the tape off and actually cut her finger because he was sick of doing it over and over and over again.
I wonder if Hinkle told him to like add some water in, or hey, put some sweet tea in there. Maybe that loosen it up in there.
Yeah.
I wonder if he did that.
Guess we'll never know.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that.
I mean, he's got to have some advice, Yeah, I don't know. All right, so they slice open Sally's finger here. This old man starts sucking on it. I was kind of surprised that this wasn't one of your guys' most memorable, disturbing moments. Like, what the fuck here? Because I think the first time I watched it, I was like, oh shit, like this is fucked up. But
the way he starts moving around too, where he's like,
Oh yeah.
getting a charge off of it and shit. I mean, it's very disturbing.
Yeah.
I believe this guy or this kid, he's like 19 years old at the time that plays
He's
Grandpa.
like the youngest of the whole cast. Yeah.
Which is crazy. And I guess
And he found... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I guess he only had like a certain amount of time to film. What Brantley referred to earlier, this scene was, I guess, like a 17 or 18 hour day where they just constantly film this all day.
I think it was a 27 hour.
Yeah,
day.
27.
20?
Yeah, it was like a 27-hour day. Yeah.
Shit.
And the kid hated being in the makeup, so like he didn't realize it was going to be such an ordeal to be in the makeup. So he was basically just like, you have to shoot me out in one day. I am not coming back again to be put in this makeup, which is one of the reasons it became a 27-hour day, because they just needed to get everything that they could. And that was like the last day of filming. Well, before pickups and stuff. But like, yeah, that was like the last like hellish, grueling day that they did, basically.
All right, so he's sucking on Sally's finger here. As Karan said, he's getting a little charge. Our hitchhiker here decides, you know what? Why don't we let Grandpa kill this one? He's still got it. So they go into some storylines about how he killed like 20 cows in one day or some shit with a hammer. They give Grandpa the hammer. He starts to try to hit her, but of course he's dropping it and missing it. And then just the sound of this hammer hitting this fucking bucket is just disturbing in itself. So that's another great thing you get. Sally manages to break free. She hurls herself through another window, lands just outside. We get our sun. It's coming up now. It's been a long night for Sally. The hitchhiker and Leatherface, they chase her. We kind of get Leatherface doing his like disco dance with the fucking chainsaw and shit. They go down the road. Hitchhiker has a knife that he's trying to get her with, but he misses.
Well, he slashes her a few times.
He gets her lower
right?
back, right?
On the back, yeah, that's right. She does get to the road. We get a truck that comes in. He hits the hitchhiker and messes him up pretty good. Truck driver gets out of the rig.
Filmed
He's like,
backwards, I think.
For the rig hitting
I think
guy?
so, yeah.
Yeah. He gets out. He's like, what the fuck is going on? He sees a crazy dude in this mask with a fucking chainsaw. This chick's screaming. Leatherface chases both of them. The truck driver's like, fuck this shit. I'm out of here. And he leaves. Leatherface drops his chainsaw and he cuts his leg as his chase goes on. We get another truck that rolls up. Sally jumps in the back of that.
The real blade thing is mind-blowing. The fact that there were some parts where it wasn't a dummy blade, so this scene was just a metal plate over his thigh.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm sorry, dude.
We talked about brisket earlier. That's what it was brisket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over a metal plate, right? So he has to hit the right part of his thigh so that it cuts the meat, but then is protecting his real leg with the metal plate. And he said he did it, and it just made the metal plate so hot so quick. He still has a burn on his leg, a scar from where he got burned.
Yeah, didn't he say he thought it cut through because it got so hot?
Yeah, because it got so hot so quick. Yeah. And he was saying too that like he kept going up to like Toby or whoever, like, so how are we doing this thing where I get cut in the leg? And like, oh yeah, we're working on it. We're going to show you. And of course, this is like one of the last things that they filmed. They're like, yeah, so you're just going to have a metal plate there, and we're going to put this brisket over it, and you're just going to drop the chainsaw right there. It's just like fucking unbelievable. Could have gone so much worse.
That's a lot of luck that nobody got.
It's
injured.
When you read like how they made this movie, it is amazing that no one like lost a finger or an eye or
Well, after was it Pam gets put on the meat hook? Is it Kirk? Is that the other guy that's in there that gets carved up? Well, he had the real blade on the chainsaw then too, and he says to him, he's like, "All right, look, you just." Like, I'm going to run this, and it's going to be real close to you, but you need to stay still. Because if you move, it could actually cut you. So, like, I don't know how you do that as an actor with your eyes closed, playing dead while someone's running a real chainsaw, like, inches from you. Fucking insane.
Yeah, I think they finally figured out to take, they took some part out to where the blade wouldn't spin, and it would just run the chainsaw.
Yeah, they figured that out a ways into production. I think that they could do that, modify it in that way.
It was borrowed from a friend who got it back after the movie, right? Like,
yeah.
Surely he sold that thing
there
for $500,000.
Hey, I threw it away, dude. Just like, it doesn't work anymore. Just laying in a landfill. Movie history. All right, Sally gets in the back of the truck. Leatherface can't catch up to her. She starts.
Apparently, another thing she was really slow at was jumping into the back of this truck.
Dude, watching it this time again, I was like, how the fuck did he not kill this girl? He's like right there, and she's like just getting in. I'm like, just move it up. You got her, dude.
It's like the opposite of that Monty Python Lancelot bit.
'Tis but a scratch. You think that's what Leatherface said?
Yeah.
Okay.
It came out like, but
all right. Sally escapes in the back of this pickup truck. She starts laughing maniacally because that's all she could do. I guess this was a reshoot because she thought she was done. They were like, something happened. You got to come back. I guess they
like to come back to the 120-degree August Texas heat because we need you for 12 more hours.
Well, I guess they used so much blood. They said that it like dyed her hair red because she was blonde, I guess. So they used so much fake blood that it dyed her fucking hair red. So she came back, she redid it, and that's what they got. She's like, the original laughing wasn't in there. Like, I didn't do that whenever. She's like, but I was so fucking done that I just couldn't help but laugh. And that's that, man. Leatherface does his fucking chainsaw dance to the sun's rising, and that's the fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. I got 3 more questions. Do you feel that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre respects its characters here? This is a film from 1974. In 1972, Wes Craven did The Last House on the Left, which we all know what that's about, which is just cruel in your face, like people doing horrible shit to somebody. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a movie that is not, there's no sexual tension in this movie. The characters, Leatherface and the family, are not into doing anything sexual to these people. So do you feel like they respected the characters in this movie? I mean, we don't see them as much, of course. It's very quick with some of the deaths. But I feel like they did. Like, that's what this isn't about. Like, this is about a fucking, we're going to be in your face. This is a crazy ass fucking story. There's no side story or side kinks or anything like that from these killers, these psychos. So I don't know. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I mean, I don't think a movie necessarily disrespects its characters or doesn't respect its characters if there is like sexual trauma in it, like Last House on the Left. So it's a little bit of a difficult question. I mean, there's certainly aspects of it where, you know, the family is laughing at her like pain and torment while they're like psychologically and physically torturing her. So, I mean, I guess if depending on what lens you're looking through it, you could say that maybe they don't respect Sally. In the filming of the movie, I mean, she got injured a couple times. Part of the reason she was running so slow after jump through the window is she literally messed up her ankle. And same with getting in the truck. So, did the filmmakers behind the scenes respect their like talent and actors as much? I don't know. Maybe not. Considering, you know, the injuries and what they put everybody through. But yeah, I mean, I think in general it does respect its characters, even if they are lambs to the slaughter, so to speak.
I think I would agree with Brantley. I feel like the movie itself respects the characters more than the movie makers probably respected the actors involved. But they got a good product out at the end, you know? It's kind of like, it's a real catch-22. How badly do you mistreat your actors in your horror movie versus how good is the product that comes out at the end?
Mm-hmm.
I think the script respects the characters in that they stay true to their character in reaction to the events and their motivations. Like, there's, aside from maybe don't pick up hitchhikers, there's not really much else, because like them going to this house, it's their family house. It's not like hey, there's a ghost story or a fucking treasure in the basement that we want to get, you know. And 20 years ago, I would have told you I don't really dig on horror because I think it's mean. And now, like, aging, I can kind of see the films that aren't mean, and largely because of the humor. And I don't think that there's any humor at the expense of their characters. The humor comes from the interaction and the fucked up characters. So, I think it respects them.
Nick, cut me up.
Yeah, well, first of all, I think the characters respect each other within the movie for the most part. I know like they find Franklin annoying, but like they're like, I mean, even the hitchhiker, like they stop and they pick up the hitchhiker, and yes, there's like several of them are like, don't do that, it's dangerous, but they do it, and it's not like so that they can get gas money or have some entertainment at his expense. They're like, he's actually like, when they find out he's pretty crazy, they try to like, they don't kick him out of the van immediately. They're like, oh yeah dude, that's okay, or whatever. And then I think the movie for a horror movie respects its characters in that, like, obviously, as Brantley said, lambs to the slaughter. We know they're going to die. How do they die, though, on screen? Is it quick? Is it... Who's it for? Like, if you watch a Saw movie, I think the audience goes there and they're like, oh, the fun part is going to be watching these people die in really drawn out ways. And this movie is so, like, grueling to get through. It's like, you don't really want to see. It's all, like, just the implication and, like, being in that environment is horrible enough. It's like, I was never rooting to, like, see a drawn out, complicated death. And, like, when Sally's being psychologically tortured and stuff, like, again, it's not like torture porn like Saw or Hostel or anything. Like, no one, I don't think, is getting any pleasure at her expense. Like, at that moment in that movie, after what she's been through, like, I feel like you're hoping that she gets out. So I don't think there's any character that, maybe with the exception of Franklin for some people, that you hope is gonna die. That's respect, I think, for a horror movie, because, like, you go into a horror movie knowing people are going to die. So I think if you are halfway through and you're like, I really wish this person's going to die, then the movie's not respecting them. And I don't think I have that feeling with this. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're really rooting for Sally there at the end. Like, all right, is she going to... Because she gets out, but there's also so many, like, we don't unmask our killer. He's still alive at the end. So we got other things going, which I guess opens up for sequels. But, gentlemen, you guys have made it through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You got 2 more questions remaining. Nick is in the lead with 147 points. Kron, I don't know how you did it. You are last with negative 257. But Kron, I will ask you this. What is the best entry since the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Dan, I'm going to be honest with you. I've not seen a ton of these outside of the original. I mean, I guess I would go with Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, the sequel to this movie, in the sense that at least it's carrying on Toby's idea, his vision for where this would go. But I was thinking about this today. Like, I think Toby Hooper always made interesting movies. I don't know if anything in his filmography that I've seen has ever quite lived up to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 1, This movie is kind of like lightning in a bottle in a way, and it's hard to ever capture that again. And when you get, like, more and more money and more resources, I don't know if that's always beneficial. But like I said, I don't think he ever made an uninteresting film. I just think this is clearly the best thing he ever did. So, but I guess part 2, to answer your question, would be the best place to go from here.
Bones.
Pass.
Nick.
Yeah, I'd probably have to say part 2, but, like, feel like I should disregard it because that was actually Toby's movie. And when I think of the sequels to this movie, I think about, like, this movie franchise being driven into the ground over the last, like, 50 years. So I'm thinking about everything beyond 2. And I'll be honest, like, the remake's not terrible. I liked Leatherface. Not 3, not Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, Leatherface, but the one that came out maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I did not mind that movie because it does not feel like a Texas Chainsaw movie at all. I mean, apart from its, like, location and the fact that the character, it's like, it's a very, like, structurally, it's a completely different movie. It feels like more of, like, a chase thriller. And yeah, I it's not a good movie, but I actually had a lot of fun with it.
Brantley.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to echo what Kron and to an extent Nick said too, but two is my next favorite. I mean, I do enjoy 2 quite a bit. I like that it kind of flips it a little bit on its head and starts messing with genre a little bit. It's much more comedic in many ways, but still like kind of dark and messed up in its own ways. So yeah, it's 2 for me. I have not seen the Leatherface that Nick is referring to, although I've heard other people also state that it's a good film as well. I don't dislike Leatherface, the 3rd film in the franchise with Viggo Mortensen. I think it's a real step down from 2, obviously, and I know the director there, Carl Buechler, was really frustrated both with Leatherface and with Friday the 13th Part 7, which he also directed, because the MPAA was just really on his ass, and so he had to cut a lot of stuff out of 3 that he preferred not to. And I believe I remember him saying in an interview or a podcast that they were cutting on the negative, so like it's gone, like whatever they had to like trim, the gore and all that is basically like not available unless there's some like tape based work print version somewhere. And I do like the remake here or there, but yeah, 2 is just, I mean, it's still Toby, it's still fun, it's a lot more humor. It's two's the way to go.
What do you do with one of the most successful horror movies ever that you've directed, called The Texas Chainsaw Massacre? You do the complete opposite in your sequel. You make it fun, you make it crazy, you make it about cannibalism. What you didn't do in the first one, you do in the second one. Flip it. And that's what he did. It's 2. It has to be 2. I respect that movie more each time I watch it. It's a total fucking headache of a movie, because just like the last 30 minutes of this one, I think there's even more screaming and chaos in the second one. I do enjoy the remake, though. I think I had a good theater experience with that one. People were really into it and stuff, so I think that amped it a little. But I didn't think it was terrible. All right. Bones, watch 2. You're gonna have, well, maybe you might have to in season 3. You never know.
Dan's lifting his eyebrows over and over in a consecutive intermittent fashion.
Audio medium, not visual. Okay. Which brings me to the last and final question of the night, gentlemen. Why is this a 5-star banger? Bones.
Thank you for starting with me. I don't know if I would personally put this at 5 stars. I was shocked when I opened my letterbox and I had it as a 3. That might have been like one of those days where you're going through and just rating stuff early on in your letterbox to try to seem cool, like you've logged a ton of shit. Could have also been in response to how much I hated Next Generation at the time. I would say now, after watching it twice this week, really liking it, it's a strong 4. I think a case can be made that its legacy sort of deems it a 5. I wouldn't question anybody that does put it at a 5. I think the magic of this movie truly is a coming together of 2 guys who typed something out, had foresight of what they wanted to accomplish, knew what their limitations were, worked to maximize that. The lightning in the bottle of stressing your actors to the point where that oozes through the screen 50 years later, hey, that's for my enjoyment, probably is really unsafe, and it should be things that we should argue against being allowed on a set. legacy, how violent it is without being violent by today's standards also goes a long way. And being remarkably captivating with how little is in the movie. It's the only thing I could think of like substantial horror that I like at that scale would be Cube, which is literally just a room that they changed out the LEDs on. So that's my review of it. And since Dan decided to take a pee break, I'm going to throw it to Brantley.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's so funny because, from the first time I watched it, I liked the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when I was younger, but I don't know if I would have called it a 5-star film. There was other horror movies I liked a lot more. It always felt very grimy and gross and that sort of grindhouse vibe to it that doesn't resonate with me as much. But having watched it a bunch recently, with Gorley and Russ to do the research for and for this, I really found a new, I guess, appreciation for it. I believe I have rated it 5 stars on Letterboxd. Not just because it's lightning in a bottle, like Kron said, and it's just seminal work that has lived on and become a classic 50 years later. I do think that this is just really well made. Like, Nick mentioned all these like close-up shots. Well, not close-up, but you want everything to be a foot further back, and that just adds to the claustrophobic, trapped nature you feel as you're watching this. You're in this massive state, Texas, where there's just like open space around you, and yet you feel trapped in this movie like the characters do. And I think that's directly to the genius of Hooper as a filmmaker and to him and Hinkle creating this story, and like Bones was saying, putting these poor actors through the trauma of making this film that like comes through very clearly on screen. It just everything came together in a way that made this work so incredibly well that I don't think would have worked nearly as well under other circumstances or at a different time. Like, does this play as well in 1984 as opposed to 74? No, not at all, I don't think. So yeah, it's just that one of those miraculous things where everything just came together, and for that I think this is a 5-star banger. Kron, I'll throw it to you.
All right, guys. I would definitely rank this as a 5-star movie. I really liked what Bones said earlier in this episode, calling this an American movie. I mean, I do feel like this captures what is good about like independent filmmaking in America at the time. And it's not that they had the best of the best. Like, most of these people, this was the first time they had ever been on a film of any kind. And it really is an American movie in the sense of like, well, do you know how to shoot any of these stunts? And it's like, no, we'll just figure it out. Like, we'll just, by sheer willpower, we will make this thing exist. And that's like, I mean, for as violent and repulsive and ugly as the movie is, there is this kind of like, we will just make this because we want to do it. Like, there will be no stopping us. We will forcibly will this into existence. And I think, it's like 98 out of 100 times you should end up with something closer to like The Room, like a unwatchable, goofy thing. But this one is in the rare, 1 to 2% of films that untrained actors, untrained movie makers, and you come out with this like seminal work that will exist in the time that it was created and forever on. Like, this movie was good when it came out. It's good now. it will be good 50 years from now. So yeah, it is truly an accomplishment of independent filmmaking. Yeah, that's why it is a 5-star movie. Send it over to Nick.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have called it a 5-star movie before this latest viewing, but yeah, I'm gonna say it is. I was like shocked at how much better I thought it was on this viewing. I don't know what it was about the circumstances this time that did it, but I just have a whole new appreciation for the movie. I never didn't like it, but yeah, there's like, I don't know, for starters, one thing I've never understood about this movie is when people call it a satire. I understand what it's supposed to be. Like, people say it's a comedy or it's a satire, and it's like there's a ton of different readings about what it's actually satirizing, and I don't know that I see it, but every time I watch it, I'm just purely uncomfortable. I don't find this is like the least funny film that I've ever seen. So I never got that. What it is to me is like just an absolute nightmare fever dream. And it follows this, like, it functions on this nightmare logic that I think for the first time I appreciated last night watching this movie. So, like, if you really think about it, and I think, Dan, you said this a little bit earlier on, or at least alluded to it when you were like, well, you know, there's a little bit of a story there. It's really just a sequence of events that are like barely tied together. Characters like just disappear and then come back at random places. Like the hitchhiker comes back. Like, it makes sense why he comes back later on, but the way in which everything functions, you start out in a graveyard and then you wind up going to this like abandoned home that two characters are familiar with. It's like one of those dreams where you have like a place that you used to go to when you were really little and now it's so much different in your dream. You know, you don't remember, and then you discover, like, the next thing they're at this other house all of a sudden, right? And all these nightmare things start happening. And then Leatherface comes out, and it's that cliche where you're running through the woods and you can't run fast enough, and literally she couldn't run fast enough. And that chase just goes on forever. You know, she like runs, she finds a house, she goes to the back of it, then she goes around the front, and she goes in the house, then she jumps out the fucking window and she's out of the house, and then the chase continues until she gets to the gas station that they were at before, and then a bunch of characters come back who are in, it just doesn't, it's like, it's crazy. And I think I really realized, I was like, oh, this is an absolute nightmare in the dinner scene when she kind of like gets knocked out and she comes to, and there's like that second where it's like, oh, am I still in this hellscape? And then the aerial shot that zooms out and like reveals her still tied to the chair. I'm just, it's brilliant filmmaking, honestly. It feels like a nightmare. It doesn't need any more plot than it has. It's just 80 minutes of discomfort. I honestly, that's the best way I could describe it. It like looks grimy. It feels grimy to watch it. It's just there to make you feel uncomfortable. And like 50 years later, I don't think it's like lost any of that impact.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, 5-star banger for me, of course. This is my pick. I struggle a lot with Tobe here. I've watched a lot of his filmography, and I'm like, is this guy a genius? Like, is he really like that good? You know? And then you get to some movies, and you're like, nah. And then you get to some other ones, and you're like, maybe. But I think I agree with Karan. I think Texas Chainsaw is like his opus, his Stairway to Heaven, baby. I would really like to know how much Hinkle had. That's not a that's not a hook, Bones. To do with it. It kind of seems like they were equals in that when it was going on. So I know a lot of the people have come out and said that Hinkle had to do a lot with it, and Toby was the director, so that's how it goes. I love whenever a filmmaker does not feed the audience like stuff, even today. Like, don't feed me a lot, just give me enough. And I think that's what this movie does perfectly. Like, there's a connection to Sally and Franklin to going to check on the grave. They know that's their grandparents' house. There could be a possibility that they played with Leatherface and the hitchhiker as kids. Like, we don't know. Like, whenever they went and visited their grandparents or some shit. So there's that. I love the little details of, like, he puts the towel over the banister, like I talked before. I love that he creates this insane house that you go to where you get in your head. When I seen this as a younger man, when she falls into that room, I think when I rewatch it, I think there's so much more going on in that room than what we get. But I think that's this movie, is you build it in your head to be more crazier than what you're actually seeing on film or what you're getting from the movie. And I think that just makes it a 5-star banger. Like, oh wait, didn't this happen? Wasn't there like a fucking foot or something there? I never noticed, like, when Franklin sees the bag of bones outside, that there was a skull in there. And maybe that was just a fucking Blu-ray that you could finally see it. But just little shit like that throughout. I love the fact that Leatherface has a fucking steel door, like Brantley mentioned. And like I said, you're creating another room of, like, what the fuck is this? But I think it works, man. I mean, there's no cause and effect here. This is before all that with, like, Friday the 13th. You have sex, you die. This movie comes straight at you, and Leatherface is going to kill you as quick as he can because you're a fucking piece of meat. And that's what he's going to do. It gets to the point. I love the fact that we don't unmask our killer. But at the end of the day, I think this comes down to sound design and set design. And I think that's what makes this work after 50 fucking years. I think it's still great. I love it. My poor wife, for some reason, always catches whenever this movie's being watched by me. Because even this time around, the 3 times that I watched it, she's like, isn't that guy turn out to be a bad guy? And I'm like, you got it, babe. And I poked her with the fucking broomstick. Yeah. No, I didn't. I love that lady. But yeah, man, Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a 5-star banger, y'all. If you got a fucking problem with it, join the Discord and fucking talk to us on it. We'll talk to you back, tell you to shut up. But Brantley or Nick,
don't you feel like, I mean, I think like it's so effective that you don't ever see him unmasked, and it's like I don't think they ever refer to him as Leatherface, and there's never mentions like what that mask is actually made out of, and I guess you can infer it if you know Ed Gein and all that stuff, but like it's never explicitly stated, which they do in the sequels, and then it loses so much effect when you like see him creating the mask. It's like that mask is so terrifying to look at, especially when you first see him, and like the details, and it's so much more effective in this movie than in the sequels when you really delve into like you don't need to be shown what it is, you feel it, you see the stitches, and you just feel like. Yeah, it's, oh my God. It's just an upsetting movie. It really is.
But I think it gets better like each time, and as you get older, maybe. I guess if you're fucked up as we are, I don't know.
I feel bad like making Nick watch it this week. Like I hope
I mean, I loved it.
I hope you're okay. Yeah.
This is like the most I've ever enjoyed that movie, so yeah, I'm very much okay.
All right.
Gentlemen, Brantley, Nick, the gruesome twosome of horror drafts. Thank you for joining us tonight for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre on the 5-Star Banquet. Anything else you guys would like to add about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? It's great. Thank you, Dan. You're amazing. You're the best host of 5 Day Rentals. I know. Thank you.
Took the words out of my mouth.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
thank you.
These losers over here, you know. I'm going to make this podcast great again. You know, all that stuff. Kron. Anything else?
No, I think we touched on everything that was. I mean, we're almost at the 3-hour mark here. I think I'm good, dude.
Yeah.
I didn't think I'd go this long, but it's 5 Day Rentals. You know how that is. All right, guys. Well, please listen to Horror Drafts. They have a whole shit ton of episodes out there that you could go through. If you haven't seen any of those movies, please watch them. 5 Day Rentals is featured on Horror Drafts multiple times. Nick and Brantley are featured on multiple episodes of our show as well. So please check those out if you love the boys here like we do. If you're on Spotify or Apple, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. If you'd like to ask us any questions or anything, 5 Day Rentals at Gmail, 5 Day Rental Podcast at gmail.com. You could do that. You can follow us on the socials at Threads, Letterboxd, or Instagram. We're on there. And Nick, Brantley, promote Horror Drafts.
Yeah, I mean, wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to the Horror Drafts podcast by searching for Horror Drafts. You'll find it. We are a very what's the word I'm looking for here, Nick?
Regular.
A very irregular podcast. Yeah, we don't come out
Unreliable.
weekly like these. Much more. Yeah, unreliable. There we go. That's what I was looking for. We're not nearly as reliable as 5 Day Rentals is, who comes out every week, which is very nice. But Nick and I just we're very busy, and our podcast takes a lot of time because you need to cram for many movies within a genre or subgenre or whatever, and we are also very guest dependent. So in many ways it makes it a challenge for us to put out a regular episode, but if people want to listen to it and listen to any of our back episodes, they can do so by checking it out. Nick, anything you want to add about the podcast?
No, I think that covers it. You know, we're it's like a gift when an episode comes out. You never know when it's going to happen. It's just a surprise present, you know?
There you go. That's a good way to put it.
That's why we do it that way.
The listeners rewarded for that break, because I feel like every episode you guys are mentioning something that a lot of people may have not seen. You know, there's always a massive
The key is that
takeaway.
I'm bearable in very small doses, too. So we don't want to just like a little taste every now and then.
That's not true.
No.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
We'd have you on for every episode. But
Yeah.
Kron tells me no.
How else are we going to do all my banana butthole material, dude? I mean, you got these other guys
Can't
here.
have
They're
Nick
gonna
in
eat
the
up
way.
time.
That's right.
He probably has 3 pages written out already. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974 from Toby Hooper. Letterboxd user rating is a 3.8. It came out October 11th of 1974 with a budget of $140K. It made $30 million. That week at the cinema, you could catch Airport 1975 and Benji. If you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and go fucking watch it. We'll follow you. We'll see you next week on 5 Day Rentals. Brantley, Nick, I love you. Thank you for joining us.
We love you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it, guys. This has been great.
Always a pleasure. That was a blast. I mean, that's just common sense if you're going to say, like, you can't eat a single person in one sitting. So